He flashes back to that epic Descending Guardians festival. Once a year, the gods literally come down from the sky for a massive celebration where every kid turning 15 gets a special blessing. These blessings are called gifts, and they give people awesome abilities for adventuring, trading, or even crafting. He screams Senna's name, desperately trying to get her to wake up. She's begging for 5 more minutes or even 5 more hours of sleep, and he's just asking how much longer she's gonna stay in bed. Our hero Geogim steps up and tells everyone that today is the holiday of the fallen gods. She's super annoyed and complains that her brother just won't listen to a single word she says. He yanks his sister out of bed and tells her to move it so they aren't late for the prayer. He tells her to hurry up and get some clothes on. Geo thinks his sister is way too spoiled, but today's the big day they finally become adults once they get their holiday gifts. He explains that he and Senna are both 15 now, and even though he's a few months older, they're actually brother and sister. The kid admits he doesn't know the full story, but he thinks his mom vanished because she loved their dad so much. A great adventurer who died over a year ago, so he and Senna have been living together ever since, and now Geo suggests they head over to the square. The girl is totally stressed out wondering what gift she's gonna get, but her brother just tells her that only God knows the answer. Our hero is super hyped about his new gift, already dreaming of how these insane powers are gonna carry him through his next big adventure. Senna says her brother is always talking like a jerk, but Geo doesn't care because he's dead set on traveling the world like his dad. Even if the guy thinks he's hiding, she tells him straight up that a sweet reward is coming his way because she knows he's gonna crush it. Her brother just smirks and says his sister is still just as reckless as she's always been. Senna says she'd be totally happy if Geo backed her up, but he just teases her and says she's still gotta do her part. He sees everyone is already starting to pray and realizes he's gotta jump in right now. The guy explains that the whole tradition is just praying to the gods at dawn and watching the sun come up. He says this is the exact moment everyone gets hit with a special blessing. Geo prays for a massive blessing to help him survive his wild adventure. Our heroes are standing in the town square with everyone else, praying they finally get a special gift. Looks like this was actually a special gift meant just for her. Suddenly, a goddess pops up right in front of the guy and hands him a crazy gift. Our hero's jaw drops as he stares in total disbelief. One hunter lands a blessing that's perfect for the family business, but the other guy claims he's never even heard of it and thinks it's a total waste. She asks her brother how everything went down, but he just keeps asking what gift she got. Senna says she's got a power that's basically the same as the sword god's blessing. The guy is totally shocked by how rude they're being. He gets all emotional and tells her that her power is actually a crazy rare gift that's going to be perfect for her adventures. But then she notices he's standing way too close to. The big brother apologizes and says he just got really nervous, but the girl laughs and tells him she totally thought he was about to kiss her. Senna turns to her brother and asks what kind of crazy stuff they actually gave him. He remembers wanting to be a traveler so bad that he asked for a special blessing to help him on his adventures. The guy is totally shook, telling everyone he was actually given a whole garden. His sister keeps asking about the garden, and the brother is honestly pretty mad that he's the one who got stuck with it. The guy and the girl are just cracking up together right here. Short-haired Annie is cracking up, but Ashifa calls her out, saying it's totally wrong to laugh at a gift from God and disrespect Geo like that. Meet the brother and sister duo, Annie and Shifa. The kid is totally shocked he got caught listening, and when Senna doubts if her brother's power can even help her, Geo gets absolutely furious. She tells him straight up that the gift is only as good as the person using it, and while our guy listens closely with a confused look on his face, Annie just keeps laughing until the hero finally. He reveals these two girls are his sisters he's known since they were kids, like 3-year-old Shifa and her older sister Annie, who just got her special gift at last year's autumn festival. Our MC explains that the sisters are officially adventurers now, with Annie using her hunter's scent and Shifa rocking imperial prestige, which is honestly a crazy level of power for someone her age. The guy also mentions that he wants to become a traveler. Our hero drops a hint that there's one major reason behind it all. Annie shoves Geo out of the way and tells him she feels bad that he won't be going on adventures with Shefa anymore. The guy asks why she said that while Senna and Shifa keep fighting, so Annie asks about Senna's gift and suggests they finally check it out. The long-haired girl asks about the sword god's blessing, but the girl with short hair says she's never even heard of it. Shefa thinks the gift sounds super powerful just from the name. Senna is totally ready to become a master swordswoman, and Annie agrees she's definitely cut out to be an adventurer. She invites her to join their crew, Center Grease. Annie says they need a new player ASAP and asks Shif if she's down, and she's totally fine with it as long as it's Senna. He figures Senna is officially part of Shifa's squad now, and really wants a massive power-up to help him on his journey. Senna calls her big brother, and he tells her to stop overthinking and join the group, especially since his own power is too weak to make any money, and he's definitely not. He tells Senna she's finally all grown up, but she still needs to keep pushing herself to get even better. The little sister finally made up her mind to become an adventurer. She waves goodbye to her big brother and tells him she's gonna stack major cash while she's young to live her best life. But he's absolutely fuming that money is all she cares about. He's feeling pretty down and admits he never thought he'd actually miss his sister, but he's still super jealous of Senna's awesome powers. Gio's trying to figure out how to use his gift, and if he even understands what having a garden at home is all about. He's complaining that his new gift is totally useless since he doesn't even have a garden. But then the system pops up and asks if he wants to make room for one. The guy spots the ground swelling up, looks around in shock to see who's behind it, and realizes the floor is actually rising in the corner. The system asks him one more time if he wants to turn this spot into a garden, and since he's totally freaked out by the voices in his head, he just gives in and says yes. The system voice announces this spot is a garden, and suddenly the ground transforms into perfect soil, leaving him totally shocked as he asks what the heck is happening. Gio taps the ground and realizes the soil is finally ready for planting, just as a system window pops up right in his face. A system screen pops up for his garden, Geo City, showing it's only level 1 out of 5 with a 50 by 50 space and 0 skills. He checks out the list of seeds he can plant, like wheat, potatoes, tomatoes, garlic, cucumbers, barley, carrots, eggplants, cabbage, turnips, pumpkins, lettuce, and peppers. Gio's totally shocked and asks if he really gets to pick whatever he wants to grow in his garden. This guy decides he's going to grow some potatoes and says he's just got to get it done, then asks if he can mark the spot with this symbol. The system asks if he wants to grow some potatoes, so Gio says yes, sets the count to 150, and tells the voice to plant them way out at the far end before confirming the spot. The system says he's officially growing potatoes, but he quickly realizes he can't even get the seeds in the ground. This guy doesn't buy how easy it is to grow these veggies, but he admits it's legit and says it makes farming way simpler. He says it's totally free and suggests putting one seed in every slot, explaining that with 50 spots total, they can grow 10 different veggies by giving each type 5 spaces. Our guy uses his special gift to plant some veggies, and now he's got to keep coming back to make sure they're growing right. Gio is absolutely stunned as his garden turns into a massive high-end vegetable patch in just 1 hour. Gio asks if it's really this easy because of his gift, and the hero tells him a normal farmer would take months, leaving Gio totally shocked by all the fresh, delicious veggies. The guy starts worrying that gathering everything is impossible, but then a system voice pops up asking if he wants to start, making the girl wonder if it's actually reading his mind. Gio gives the okay, the guy watches in total shock, and the system starts the collection, showing off just how fast and easy it really is. The hero is totally shocked when the veggies suddenly burst out of the dirt and start grouping up all on their own. Gio watches totally hyped to see huge baskets overflowing with fresh tomatoes, potatoes, cabbage, and tons of other veggies. This guy is totally tripping over the voice in his head and the field that just plowed itself, especially when he sees game-like levels popping up and crops growing at insane speeds without him even planting seeds. Our hero is totally weirded out by all this crazy stuff happening, like veggies picking themselves, and he notices a basket just spawned in before he could even process it. Gio's definitely got something on his mind. He's blown away by how easy everything is here, and you can tell he's totally loving it. He wonders if he can even eat veggies, but then he sees the tomatoes look totally normal and super tasty. This guy takes a bite of the tomato and realizes it's actually super delicious. He notices the inside is thick and jelly-like, saying it tastes sweet like a fruit but still has that perfect sour kick. He says he's gonna devour every single one, but then he's shocked to see that every tomato is actually top tier. Gio is totally blown away by how amazing it is, thinking that if the tomatoes are this good, the other vegetables must be just as top tier. Right then, we see Senna and her 2 friends hanging out. Senna is totally blown away by the massive green fields, realizing she's never actually stepped foot outside the city until today. The boss points out Lord Arsol's dungeon, a super dangerous maze crawling with demons where adventurers go to find rare loot and get rich quick. Annie tells Senna he's a total noob, but says he'll get the hang of it once he starts slaying monsters. And since he's never even touched a sword, the girl. She shows off the new sword she grabbed yesterday, mentions it totally wrecked a gremlin, and says if Shin Senna gets a sword as a gift, she's gonna level up super fast. The girls look over and are totally shocked to see a demon standing right there. This creepy monster with long claws on its hands and feet and pointy ears suddenly crawls out from the tall grass. The girls spot a goblin, and while one of them worries about how many there are, Annie tells her to chill because it's just one, and the perfect way to kick off their new adventure. Annie tells Senna to get ready, but Senna is totally stunned because Annie went down so fast she didn't even see the sword move. She laughs with pure joy, saying this is awesome because now she can finally handle that goblin. The girls are totally panicking because going solo is way too risky, but the Senate just tells them to chill out. She thinks she's finally figured out exactly how to take them down. The goblin hurls a jagged rock, and the girls are totally shocked to see him chucking his gear straight at Senna. The stone scrapes right down the sword's edge, and the goblin looks totally freaked out. Santa charges straight at the goblin and totally wipes the floor with him. The two girls right next to her are totally freaked out and look absolutely terrified. Senna starts laughing like crazy and yells that they actually pulled it off. They finally won. Annie and Shifa are totally frozen in shock. Everyone saw Senna crush that monster solo, showing off crazy speed as she deflected stones with her sword and proving she had the guts to take down a literal demon. But the best part is how she's a total beast with a sword. Word is there's a massive new talent, and he's putting on a show right at his own place. So this guy is just cooking up some food when he suddenly hears a voice calling out that someone's home. Our guy says hey to his sister and tells her he's ready to go, then asks how her first quest went, and she says it was a blast because she actually fought a demon. Her big brother is totally stunned and asks if she's actually okay or if she's hurt. She tells him he's worrying way too much since her sisters were right there and the demons were total weaklings. And even though it was her first time swinging a sword, she actually loved it, making him realize it's probably because of the gift as he admits he's low-key jealous. The hero hands her a warm bowl of stew as a special reward for her first big win. He cooked up a feast with garden veggies today, figuring they can finally stop holding back on food even if meat is still super rare. Someone else told her to enjoy her food, and her brother asked a totally stunned Senna what just happened. My sister's grinning ear to ear, telling me the food is straight up amazing. She's totally hyped and can't get over how insanely good all these vegetables taste. The older brother realizes everything feels different today, and the girl next to him agrees that the stew is pretty strange, but after one taste, he thinks it's actually amazing. Santa freaks out over how sweet and rich the veggies are, saying they're the best she's ever had, while the guy realizes they're on a totally different level than anything he's eaten before. His sister is super hyped because the food is amazing and there's a ton of it, and her brother is just stoked that she's enjoying the feast. She asks where he got all that gear, and just as he starts explaining, Senna keeps cutting him off for more info, making him realize he totally messed up by opening his mouth. His sister is all smiles after eating way too much, while the guy pulls Senna aside to fill her in on what's happening. She's totally shocked to find a garden in the yard, and the boy shows her that the veggies they just ate were actually grown right there. Senna thinks this might be his special power, and his brother totally agrees, saying it's going to save them a ton of money on food. His sister is super hyped and says she could totally eat this awesome food every single day. This guy is super hyped to get a gift that's totally going to carry him through his journey. He mentions how awesome the garden looks and that he's totally stuffed, but she's already drooling just thinking about it. The heroes suddenly spot a rock that just slammed into the ground right next to them. She says it's a magic stone she found while exploring today, and suddenly a system voice pops up asking if you want to use it. The kid asks his sister if this stone is actually frozen magic, and after she says yes, she asks Senna if the boy can keep it, so Senna agrees but wants to know what he's planning to do with it. He chucks a rock onto the ground and the system pings to let him know he just used a magic stone. The kid is totally blown away by what's happening, realizing this power is next level, and he never imagined things would get this crazy. This guy looks up and realizes the entire tree is actually covered in meat. The hero reveals his gift is actually a vegetable garden that lets him grow and harvest super tasty crops. Gio's convinced that after using the magic stone, a tree made of meat actually started growing. Our heroes are deep inside the dungeon right next to Arsault. She says she's totally wiped out after taking down a whole army of demons. The data shows these guys aren't a threat anymore since the fight ended so fast, and Shifa tells Senna that if she's ready to get serious with her research, they'll be totally fine. Senna laughs and says the little rock is a gift for her brother, and even though Annie thinks it's totally worthless, she's taking it home anyway. Shifa asks how his brother is doing, admitting he couldn't see a thing on the day of the descent. Gio dreamed of traveling the world, but his power is totally useless for that, and even though the boss is freaking out, Senna says he's just gonna stay home. She brags about how amazing her brother is, claiming his skills are so insane he could literally take over the entire world. Gio's totally panicking because Shifa might show up, but then his sister drops the news that Annie's coming too, so our hero tells everyone they better start cleaning the house ASAP. He realizes it's been way too long since Shifa came around, and he's dead set on making her happy. Our guy starts getting in his head because her face is a total blank slate, making it impossible to read her. He thinks Shifa is super chill and sweet, but since she barely laughs compared to Annie, he's terrified of letting her down. Santa says her sisters are dropping by just to check out the garden. Our MC wonders how they'll react when he shows them the goods, but the girl is totally sure everything from the garden will taste amazing. His sister happily adds that she's always down. He decided to level up the garden even more so it would totally blow the guests away. He realizes this isn't just a normal garden anymore, so Santa tells him it's time to use some magic stones. Our hero admits he's been dying to level up his garden for ages, so he checks his stats and sees that Gio's level 2.8 plot is totally maxed out. He says those magic stones are leveling up the garden, which means they can expand the whole area and grow way more crops. The system tells him he can finally grow meat in his garden, so he decides to level it up even though he has no idea how it's actually going to work. A voice asks how much magic stone he wants to burn, and Gio says to use every last bit, while his sister just stands there wondering who the heck he's even talking to. The system alerts them that the magic stones are being used, and as the gems fade away, the team realizes they've finally hit level 3. Word is they can finally expand the garden and grow new crops, so the boy tells them they should go check it out. Our hero realizes he's never heard of burdock, perilla, or batat, and when he asks Senna if they ring a bell, she tells him she's never heard of them either. She asks if it's some kind of rare exotic food and thinks it would be awesome if they could actually grab it. The hero and the girl spot some brand new crops, and he's totally flexing about how much they've expanded the garden, while the boy thinks it's a sweet potato, and the sisters are already hyped to try it out. The brother explains that the secret to steaming perfect potatoes is all about picking the right ingredients first. The heroes take a bite of the fresh sweet potato and they're both totally blown away by how sweet and delicious it actually is. Gio realized this sweet potato tastes way more like a dessert than a vegetable, and it could totally be served as a sweet treat. She admits her brother's gift is totally insane, and since that magic stone lets her do even more, she heads off to grab another item to keep testing her powers. Our hero is super hyped because his gardening level just hit a new high, and he's unlocked some awesome new skills. The girls drop by to apologize for the chaos and hope they aren't being a total bother. The boy is super stoked to invite Shifa inside and says he loves having company, while his sister just laughs and promises everything is totally fine. Our hero says he's sorry for totally missing Annie at first. Annie tells him that Senna hyped up his garden so much, she just had to come see it for herself. The boss nods, but Gio swears his sister is totally overreacting and he didn't actually go that far. Annie's mind is blown because she can't believe a basic garden is actually doing this well. The squad walks into a garden that's actually a veggie patch, and they're totally shocked by how insanely lush and well kept it is. The girls check out the garden and are totally blown away by all the fresh fruit, veggies, and mushrooms growing like crazy. Word is there's a sweet fence here now, but this garden used to look way worse. Senna's jaw drops when she sees the fence, and the hero admits he's the one who built it using a level 5 skill that lets him instantly spawn a barrier to keep creepers from. Annie admits she totally slept on him, shocked that a fence could actually look this cool, and she's even spotting some crops she's never seen before. Our guy spots Annie laughing back at the garden and wonders why she's so hyped about his big win. He notices Shifa is acting like she doesn't care at all, so he stops and asks her what she actually thinks about the whole situation. Shifa says she was totally stunned by how beautiful it was, but the hero thinks she's just playing nice. Our hero thinks it's time to taste what they grew in the garden, and the girls are totally down for it. Gio points at a tree and says meat is actually growing on it, leaving the girls completely losing their minds. They didn't believe it at first, but there really was meat growing on that tree, and the guy says he was just as shocked when he first saw it. Annie's jaw drops when she sees meat growing on trees, but the hero explains it's all thanks to his crazy special gift. He says his garden harvest is super tasty and starts picking it, but then the meat actually starts moving, totally freaking everyone out. Another guy spots the hero's meat basket and watches as the food literally jumps inside on its own, making our hero super hyped about how easy his life just got. The girl is totally losing it at what's happening in the garden, shouting that it's not about convenience. The meat is literally jumping around. The meat looks super fresh and tasty, so Gio gets everyone hyped for a BBQ tonight, but Annie's the only one wondering if it's actually safe to eat. Shifa goes to taste the meat, but then she says it's actually just made of wood. She tells them it's just a gift from Gio and they should totally stop stressing out. The crew starts prepping for the big barbecue, with one girl slicing the meat, another handling the grill, and Annie getting put on veggie duty. The guy shouts that everything's ready, tells everyone to dig in, and says Senna's going to be the first one to take a bite. Gio hands Shifi a piece of the fresh meat and tells her to watch out because it's piping hot. But the girl next to her is totally skeptical and asks if she's really sure about this. Our guy is low-key freaking out because he has no clue how Shifa is going to react to the meat. Shifasi meat is straight up delicious. He was super hyped she liked it and asked if it was actually that good. The hero's stoked she liked it, and Sheva says it's literally the best meat she's ever tasted, so Senna tells Annie she's gotta try some right now. She's totally hyped because the meat looks super soft and feels amazing. She's totally geeking out over the food, talking about how beef and pork actually grow on trees, and since the veggies and mushrooms are amazing too, she's ready to eat every single thing in sight. Gio hooks everyone up with some sweet potato pie for dessert. The kid shows off a sweet potato from his garden, and Annie's mind is blown since she's never even heard of it. Even the chef is skeptical, asking if it's actually homegrown, but our hero confirms it's 100% legit. The girls give it a taste and they're totally obsessed with how good it is. Annie admits she's never tasted anything like this before, and the chef is totally hooked on the sweet pie, saying it tastes just like honey. The girls beg for another slice of pie, and our hero realizes they're totally obsessed with sweets. Senna admits her brother's gift is actually fire, and the girls are all super impressed with how the garden turned out. Our guy looks outside and realizes his garden is suddenly packed with all kinds of delicious food. Shafa says Gio's power is a total gift from God, and she's completely obsessed with how unique his skills actually are. Our MC is totally hyped to see Shifa smiling, but he can't even believe it's for him and says that special look is just for her. She's totally stunned by all the attention and asks if this is actually for her, but he gets super awkward, tells her there's still tons of food, and starts worrying if he's even doing a good job hosting everyone. He still thinks his power is the only reason they were happy, seeing that empty shell as a real smile, and wondering if they ever could have made it without his gift. Ani says the food is amazing, but there's way too much for one person, and the hero knows that even a big eater like Senna couldn't finish everything growing in this garden. He says the crops are growing like crazy, and there's a ton of them, so Annie asks if she can use some for the restaurant. The guys were totally shocked to find out they were actually just talking about a restaurant. Our hero spots a massive line even during the lunch rush and starts wondering just how hyped this place actually is. The waitress flashes a big smile as she waves the next person inside, making the whole place feel super welcoming. He looks around and realizes the whole crowd is basically just a bunch of dudes. A waitress walks right up to this guy and invites him to grab some lunch at her place. He claims they're just here for a meeting, but he's actually got a totally different plan in mind. He was shocked to see a brand new restaurant right across the street from Annie's house, and knew he had to go check it out. Our hero and this girl stop right in front of Lucas's restaurant, which Annie's parents actually own, and seeing how this once busy spot looks totally ghosted now, he asks if they're even still in business. Annie explains that a new rival just showed up and snatched all their customers, while the girl remembers hanging out here with Senna and misses the old vibes. Gio finds out his dad's been gone for ages and Annie is barely around, but her sister is working her heart out to keep the restaurant from failing. Our hero realizes Annie's sister Alicia is actually super sweet and tough, and right then, she shows up to apologize for being late. She's super hyped to welcome the heroes into the restaurant. Our heroes are standing there in total shock. The sister catches Annie and Gio in the room, and while the guy is looking totally clueless, Alicia asks him if he saw anything. She explains the restaurant next door is going broke, and the only way to beat them is by dressing cute, but Annie's honestly pretty bummed about the whole thing. Alicia reveals that this is actually a brand new event, and it leaves everyone else totally baffled. Annie straight up tells them their plan is a total disaster, says she's super let down, and is completely done talking about it. The girl smirks and tells Annie she needs to dress to impress, but Annie just looks totally confused and says she has no clue what's going on. Her sister promises she looks amazing and will definitely stand out, but Annie isn't having it and flat out refuses to do it. Annie repeats herself, praying the hero didn't actually catch on, while he just stands there looking completely lost. The girl explains that her sister is out traveling the world, so she's the one stuck running the restaurant. Annie's totally down to help her sister since that restaurant means everything to her, but she's making it clear that the food has to be the main focus. Our hero looks around and realizes there's no special menu, and the whole place looks way too basic. Alicia warns them that if things don't change fast, their dad's restaurant is going to go broke and shut down for good. Joe's totally caught off guard by how mad Alicia is, but she tells him straight up that this is a huge deal for both sisters. He heads back to the girls and tells them straight up that Annie was the one who sent him. He says he hopes this gift saves the restaurant and explains he's been thinking hard about how his powers can finally fix their mess. The guy starts flexing about the massive haul he picked from his garden, claiming every single bite is super delicious. Alicia's losing it because she's never seen stuff this fresh, and the guy shows off the roots and leaves to prove how good it is. The moment he shows off the rice, everyone freaks out because they've only heard rumors about it, and it's basically a myth in their land. Alicia explains that this rice is super rare and usually imported, but Annie says she's actually seen stuff just like it at the market before. She's totally shocked because rice is usually brown, but he shows off these shiny white grains and says they actually came out of the harvest looking just like that. The sister is totally obsessed with the garden and asks how they found all these ingredients, but then Annie says meat literally grows on trees, leaving everyone completely stunned. She challenges Alice to jump in and whip up a dish with these ingredients. She finally comes clean and says she doesn't want him doing jobs that are just plain embarrassing. She thanks them for the ingredients and starts whipping up something amazing, showing exactly how it's done with her hands while admitting she doesn't usually show off her skills, but she's making a special exception today. Annie's all smiles because she found a cookbook in her dad's room with the perfect rice recipe, and her sister is super hyped to finally start cooking. She starts following the book's weird instructions by tossing in dill, animal parts, and 25 potatoes, and even though the magic steps look super hard, they decide to just go for it. Alicia tells them to just dump in more water and keep stirring, but then she realizes the rice is already gone, which totally shocks her sister until the guy reveals he's already scored. The guys catch the delicious scent of fresh rice cooking in the air. The crowd starts complaining that the line is barely moving and wondering if they're even in the right spot, telling the guy he just needs to wait a bit. The girl meets them at the front of Lucas' restaurant with a huge welcome, telling them to come inside and grab a snack. She tells them they've finally got a brand new menu to check out. Gio's like, "What's wrong with my clothes?" Annie tells her she made a special outfit for her sister, and the customer is totally surprised to find a restaurant there, but The guys check out the menu and ask if they can order, and the girl tells them they're totally good to go. The waiter finally brings out the food and thanks them for waiting, and everyone's jaws just drop because the meal looks absolutely incredible. The guy lists off the feast of meat-stuffed perilla leaves with burdock, potato salad, thick veggie soup, and rice, and the waiter tells him it's their special lunch set. The customer is totally shocked to see such a weird item on the menu and admits he's literally never seen rice in his entire life. The crew is totally shocked that a regular shop has something as rare as rice, and they're dying to find out what it tastes like. Gio's totally sure everyone will love the food since they worked so hard on it and used ingredients grown right in his own garden. The guests start digging in and go wild, with one guy losing it over how amazing the food tastes, while another can't get over how soft and fluffy the rice is. Everyone's vibing with the food, and while one guy says the rice gets better with every scoop, another customer is freaking out over how amazing the soup, salad, and meat are. Our guy notices the perilla leaves give the meal a fresh, spicy kick, while the burdock adds a super satisfying crunch. Alicia and Gio are all smiles while a customer hypes up their shop, until he points out something crazy. They don't even have rice. Annie dishes out a bowl of rice for the guest. The girl tells them they can eat all the rice they want, and the whole group is totally blown away. Other people are crowding the shop asking for a seat, and they're totally losing it over the food, saying they've never tasted anything this amazing in their lives. Alicia asks Gio if she can snag a bite from his plate, and he's totally cool with it, noticing she's actually super happy, even though she's busy working at the crew keeps stuffing their faces while hyping up the food, wondering where anyone could even find ingredients this rare and delicious. The waiter suddenly freaked out, making everyone ask what was going on, but the first guy told them to chill because it was no big deal. The customers spot some cute girls across the street and decide the tiny shop is totally worth it, especially since the food is fire. Everyone loves the food at Lucas, and they all say the owner is actually super chill. Alicia thanks the hero for all the help and is totally hyped about the win, saying she can't even remember the last time they had this many guests. The kid offers to keep cooking with his garden veggies if they dig the food, but even when the owner tries to pay him a ton of money, he totally turns it down. She's the boss of the shop, so she refuses to eat for free, even if her friends are the ones offering. She says the food is so good she'd pay double the price, but Gio reminds her she still has a ton of work to do. The hero says he's just happy the shop is staying open, so he tells them to stick to the normal price for now, and they'll talk about a raise once they've got more cash, which leaves Alicia totally hyped. She asks Gio what he thinks of his sister, and he just says she's a really good girl. She asks him to go for a walk with her sister, and he's totally feeling the awkward vibes. The sister says what's up to Annie and tells her to stop messing with the hero because he's way too clueless to get the joke. He totally gets the hints she's dropping, but he's still confused why Alicia is leaving everything exactly the way it is. She even tells her sister that if she hesitates, she's totally gonna snatch Gio up for herself. Annie is totally lost after her sister says something that makes zero sense, so Alicia just heads off to get ready for tomorrow. She swears she'll do whatever it takes to make sure the Lucas restaurant becomes a massive success. Our hero is super relieved Alicia is back to normal. Annie admits she was terrified of losing control, and even the guy is shocked they fixed everything so fast. The girl warns him that he's gotta be super careful not to go overboard with his gift. She warns that the kidnappers might force them to work non-stop, so they really need to watch their backs. He wonders why she stopped him earlier and asks her straight up if she's actually just worried about him. She tells him she was just trying to keep the restaurant from getting wrecked. He knows that when things get rough, you really need someone to talk to, and he's just glad he can finally trust Anna and the rest of the crew. She tells him he straight up saved her life and admits she never could have helped him the way he just helped her. Gio mentions they've been tight since they were kids, and she thinks he's a great guy. even if he's a little too clueless sometimes. The hero asks if she ate something funky. She tells him she just grabbed fruit right off the tree, and when she gives him a super heartfelt thank you, he's totally caught off guard and figures it's all thanks to his gift. He's stoked and says that tons of people are finally winning thanks to his special powers. Gio knows his power could be super dangerous in the wrong hands, and he totally gets the risks. The girl in the cap remembers her last visit, back when the most popular spot was actually on the other side of the road. Our girl is blown away by how well Lucas's place is doing, so she decides to find out exactly how they got so famous. The guy shouts that it's happening again. His sister asks what's going on, and he tells her she's got to see this for herself. This guy spots a bunch of crows and starts complaining about how they're always causing trouble. The sister says they should just take out the crows since they're honestly no big deal for adventurers. She's confused why crows never show up, but he notices the birds actually follow him everywhere he goes. Her brother thinks the crows are terrified of her, but Senna tells him they actually just don't respect him at all. She's wondering if she should stop traveling to protect the garden, while her brother is overstaying home and says it's finally time for an adventure. He thanks Senna for scaring those birds off, admitting the fence is basically trash and he's totally over having to watch the crops every single second. Our hero starts using these magic stones to power up, and it actually works because he shoots all the way up to level 10. After leveling up and getting some sick new powers, our guy is shocked to see he can finally make the garden even bigger. Suddenly, someone knocks on the door, but Gio just shouts to see who it is, and decides he'll check it out later. A girl named Liliali Ruka introduces herself as a merchant and gives the heroes a super warm welcome. He saw how tiny she was and wondered if she was actually part of that small Puzion race. Gio asks her what he can do to help out. She says Lucas's restaurant blew up because the food is incredible, and she totally agrees since even she was shocked by how good it tasted. She was dying to know where they got such top-tier ingredients, so she started tailing the restaurant to find their secret source. Lyric laughs and says that's exactly why she's here, adding that the house looks way too normal for a place that makes such legendary ingredients. Our hero is totally clueless about what this girl wants, and finally asks what the heck is even going on. She's starting to think that all this craziness is actually about a gift. He remembers Annie's warning to keep this weird power a total secret so nobody tries to take advantage of it. The little girl just laughs and mocks the hero for trying to trick her, telling him he's way too naive since his face gives away everything he's thinking. She says the apple tastes amazing and she's totally down to help them out. Lurica explains that their goods are heading to cafes and shops everywhere, not just Lucas's place, and when she asks if he's interested, he's totally down for it. The girl in the hat notices he's sharp, so she explains that hobbits never lie and always play fair when they trade. He's shocked he's never heard of these clever hobbits since they're actually super smart and chill, so the girl offers to sign a magic contract if the hero is still feeling uneasy. She explains that these magic contracts are there to lock in their deals and keep all their big secrets safe. She tells him they need a rule against leaking magic secrets in the contract so they can sign the deal and finally get into the juicy details. He realized the customers at Lucas's restaurant were obsessed with her stuff, and now he's hyped to make even more people happy with his own work. He knows trading isn't his thing, so he just makes deals with the pros instead. Our guy locks it in and says he'll sign the contract, and the girl is so hyped she thanks him. Lururki announces the magic contract is officially live, and Gio is super hyped to show off his garden. The guy shows off this crazy tree covered in veggies, fruit, and mushrooms, leaving the girl totally stunned as she asks what the heck it even is. Gio says there's no point in planting seeds because everything grows in just 1 hour, so you can harvest and grow any plant you want instantly. Our hero says this stuff can make anything taste super fresh or even really sweet. She admits that it's honestly hard to believe a miracle like this is even real. She says you can't find gear this good in any shop, and he's totally shocked because he'd heard a completely different story. He's getting a major bad vibe that something is wrong, but she's just smiling and saying everything is totally fine. He says they've started getting all kinds of new stuff lately, like even fish. Our hero points out the obvious. Fish definitely don't grow on trees. He says they're popping up everywhere like mushrooms in a garden. The girl says you don't see this every day while the little kid thinks the fish looks totally natural. But Gio's stuck because she has no clue how to cook, dry, or smoke it. Liruki invites the hero to cook up some fish together to celebrate them finally meeting. She says she used to work with fishermen, so she's a total pro at cooking this fish, which she calls a mackerel. She slices the fish into 3 pieces and sees how perfect the fillets look, while the hero is totally hyped to be working with such fresh ingredients. The guy asks if they can just eat the fish raw, but the girl says they should try some new ways to cook it since things are pretty intense right now. Gio admits he's having a hard time getting the bones out, while Lurica points out they still need salt, oil, and veggies for the meal. Our hero realizes Laruka is a total pro when it comes to food, and she explains that her job lets her meet and talk to everyone. He jokes that it sounds super useful and says he wants to be an adventurer, but she's just confused about how meat growing on trees would actually help him out. Our hero shouts that the food is finally ready. They both see how amazing it looks, and they immediately dive in to take a bite. This guy calls the dish fried fish a la Meunier. He's totally blown away by the rich, smooth flavor and can't believe how crazy juicy this fish is. Our hero turns to Lilia and asks her what her take on food is. She says the fish is super rich and has a totally sweet flavor. She admits this is straight up the best fish she's ever tasted in her life. As soon as Lilia finishes talking, Gio checks in to see if she's actually doing okay. Laruki says sorry for acting way too close and is totally cringing right now. The hero just laughs and says the food turned out totally amazing. She thanks him for the fish and gives him all the credit, but he tells her she's the one who actually cooked it, and while they both love the taste, she keeps insisting it's all thanks to him. She jokes that they should just meet in the middle, saying that being thankful to each other is the perfect start for an awesome team-up. The kid says he wants to raise way more of these fish, so he's gonna have to cut back on his other crops to make room. He says it'd be awesome to have more space for his plants, but she points out that they're totally stuck within these tiny borders. The guy sees the crows swarming him again, and man, he is seriously annoyed. He says those crows are totally stalking the fish on the farm. Gio says today is the day he finally shows those crows who's really in charge. He swung the shovel with everything he had, but he totally missed. Our hero swings his shovel to scare the crows off, but the birds still fly away with a chunk of the crops. The girl asks if Gio's alright, and he tells her he's mostly fine, but hey, at least he managed to save something. He sees the crows swarming together for a massive attack, but he's definitely not going down without a fight. The system pops up to show his garden finally hit level 10, and he even unlocked a sick new skill. A voice asks if it should spawn a defender, and the girl is totally shocked, asking who he's even talking to. A new guardian steps up to protect the garden, and Gio immediately puts him on bird duty to chase away the crows. Lyric asks what's going on, and he tells her that this new guardian is actually part of her special gift. The crows swarm the guy for what he did, but he just blasts them away with pure power. Our guy realizes this defender is a total beast and is easily shutting down every single crow. He's super hyped that the defender actually pulled it off. The girl is totally blown away by the defender's strength and says his gift is on a whole different level. Gio is totally hyped that everything worked out and thanks him for putting in the work. He swears the garden is finally safe, all thanks to the defender. Word is Laruka's back home to seal the deal, and with the cash rolling in, that golem is keeping the garden on total lockdown. The kid asks if they're finally good to go. She tells him she bought the land right next to his house and she's super hyped to give it to him as a gift. LaRue says that if they just plant way more crops, they're gonna end up with a massive harvest. Our hero is totally stressing over all the cash they just dropped, but the girl promises this land is about to make them super rich. She says this is definitely going to make them trust each other way more. The squad decides to stick together and keep leveling up as a team. Gio knows he can totally trust this guy, so they get straight to work tearing down that old abandoned house. The system asks if he wants to turn the land into a farm plot and add a fence, and he just hits confirm on the whole thing. In a flash, the house just vanishes, leaving a totally empty spot for new plants while Lyric stands there completely blown away. The kid's jaw drops at how massive the new place is, and the hero tells him they can finally grow tons of food here. Lyric hands over the cash, and since it's a massive payday, Gio decides he's keeping the whole stash a secret from Senna. Her jaw drops when she sees just how massive this garden really is. Our hero is hyped because he just scored this land, and now he can finally grow way more plants. Sister spots a whole forest of meat trees growing beef, pork, horse, and chicken, and she even notices some fish. She sighs, wishing the whole world was covered in gardens, but her brother admits he's only set up 1,000 out of his 25,000 because he's totally out of space. Gio offers to handle the next harvest, and a system screen pops up showing a huge list of herbs and medicine he can start growing. Our hero asks what this grass is, and she tells him it's actually used to brew healing potions. She says this herb used to be in every pharmacy, but now it's totally sold out until the next harvest hits. Our hero realizes that without these herbs, the dungeons are going to be a total nightmare. He's super hyped to grab this grass, knowing it's exactly what he needs to help Shafi out. He takes the help and suddenly remembers a chat he had with Santa about some pharmacy. This guy walks up to a totally trashed pharmacy that looks like it's been empty for years. But since the door is wide open, he starts wondering what kind of person actually owns it. The pharmacy is totally dead and creepy inside, and our hero realizes there's absolutely nothing cool to find here. Our hero gives a quick shout to the guy who just walked in. The guy asks who owns the shop, and she tells him she's actually the assistant and salesperson working there. This guy realizes his maid's outfit actually matches the inside of the pharmacy perfectly. A girl steps out of the shadows and tells Dennis that this is a special form made just for him. The girl in the uniform introduces her as Mrs. Marine, who says hello and mentions she's never seen his face around here before. He thought he was looking at a literal zombie, and honestly, this creepy abandoned house was the perfect fit for her. Denny asks about making another form, and Ms. Marine explains that it's actually a direct order from the manager. The hero thinks she looks totally awesome, but Dennis admits she hates this form and drops a huge secret. She's actually a guy. Ms. Marin totally shocks everyone by calling Dennis a cutie instead of just a regular guy. Dennis swears he's a real human, but the girl isn't buying it for a second. She says Denise is actually a total sweetheart. He's ready to bail, but they stop him right there and beg him to stay. This dude in a maid outfit walks up and asks Gio if he's there for business. The guy says he's finally tracked down all the ingredients for a healing potion, and he's looking to sell. Dennis confirms this thing is the real deal, and the girl is totally loving the hero's fresh and hyped-up energy. She says this AIMA is exactly what they need to brew a top-tier potion for max healing. The guy in the uniform explains that potions have different ranks, ranging from fixing tiny scratches to healing major wounds. But the better the quality, the more cash you're gonna need. Dennis realizes that Miss Marin's special gift lets her tell exactly how good a potion is with just one look. She's totally shocked, yelling that she's never seen leaves this massive and they look super high quality. The pharmacy assistant says the weather was so bad that not a single crop grew this year. Marin's eyes get super scary because she's totally not happy that he's hyping up the guest. The hero says his sister Santa is a traveler, and Dennis adds that she's always swinging by with Shefa. Gio promises a massive discount, but only if they sell every single elixir straight to his sister. The girl is down for the deal since Shefa's squad are regulars, but she's got one big condition first. Out of nowhere, she snaps and claims Denise is hers, telling everyone that he belongs to her and her alone. The hero is super hyped to see another health potion popping up for Shefa. The guy in the uniform says the target is top tier, and tells Gio he should definitely go out and grab more of these raw materials. Mrs. Marin confirms this eye is the real deal and asks him where he even managed to find it. She spots the healing potion and realizes it's finally good to go. She's starting to think this potion has a totally new power that nobody's ever seen before. Marin realizes this thing won't be an easy sell, so he decides to water down the potion. His sister is super hyped about all the healing herbs she just bought and asks if he finally dropped his plants off at the pharmacy. She tells him Shefa says thanks, but she's already heading out on a massive journey. The brother feels bad for dragging Shefi into his mess again, but his sister tells him she's a top-tier warrior they can't live without in the dungeons. The girls look up and see a massive monster standing right in front of them. Shefa tells them he's totally got their back. The girls are super relieved that everything worked out, and Annie is low-key stunned by how easily Senna just handled that terrifying bloody grizzly. Sina gives them all the credit for the win, explaining that Annie's hunting charm lets her sense enemies coming from a mile away, while Shifa's empresses. Ani says it's all thanks to her insane sword skills, God's blessing, and his quick thinking, and the girls realize they're absolutely flying through the dungeon. Senna says her brother is the real MVP, because without his potion, going down there would be a total nightmare. She says Gio looked totally lost when she tried to thank him. He senses two weak presences up ahead and figures someone's definitely hurt. The girls find the injured deep in the dungeon and jump straight into action to save them. He's totally shook seeing his friends all beat up and realizes their wounds are actually super serious. Senna holds out a healing potion and tells him he's gotta drink it. The girls yell that there's someone standing right behind her. Our heroes look up and see the whole squad of the monster they just beat standing right in their way. They tell Senna to hold the line while they patch up the injured, and she's already thinking this fight is going to be a total piece of cake. Eni warns that a ton of monsters are about to swarm this place any second now. Shifa is looking for backup, but Senna feels like her whole body is suddenly getting super light. She's taking on monsters and rushing in to save the day. Wait, someone just realized that these guys are actually the Shifa squad. The girls gave Eliza a huge welcome, checked on the wounded, and decided to use the potion to heal everyone up right away. Eliza says they need top-tier healing herbs and wants to grab every leaf they can find, but Annie thinks just a tiny bit of the good stuff will get the job done. Everyone crowds around the injured fighters and they're totally shocked by how bad the wounds look, but the girl promises her potions will fix them right up. The injured survivors thank the heroes for saving their squad, and Eliza tells them they should all stick together and keep moving. Senna and Shifa make it clear, they're staying right here. Eliza's convinced this potion is top tier, honestly way better than even the best first-class stuff out there. She asks where they scored the elixir, and the girl tells her they got it at Mrs. Marin's pharmacy. Marin actually thinks she was a total pro at making medicine back then. The boss reveals she and Eliza actually have a secret deal and go way back, so she's totally confused why her squad keeps changing every 5 seconds. Senna is totally shocked when she notices their potion looks super weird. She's totally blown away by how insane this potion is, saying it's way better than the top-tier stuff and wondering how it was even made. Word is, this whole garden belongs to Geo. Dennis says Geo's herbs are the reason for everything happening, and the hero's like, yeah, Senna already told me about that. He admits he's just stoked to help Shifa out, and honestly it feels awesome to finally be useful. This dude says he's actually brought even more Ima with him. The hero teases her about being a total stalker again, right before Dennis drops the news that Geo actually brought AIMA back with him. Our MC hands over the herbs, and Mrs. Marin is super grateful for the gift. She says his herbs are the exact reason this place is totally packed with people. Geo knows he's leveling up, but he still has zero clue how to actually brew a potion. Dennis starts gushing about how sweet Mrs. Marin is, and she just smiles and calls him cute. Marina thanks the hero for everything, but he just plays it cool and promises to bring her even more healing herbs next time. My sister's asking me to count up every single one of these magic stones. Since the herbs were a total win, the brother is ready to take things to the next level, saying they can finally go full speed as the system screen shows the stones are gone. The level just shot up, unlocking a brand new fence, fresh skills, and a whole bunch of awesome new items to grab. Chu's mind is totally blown that they can actually grow eggs now. Our hero sticks the egg in the ground and watches it start growing like crazy. He looks at the magic egg and realizes it's not small anymore. It's actually gotten huge. He's staring at this massive egg and wondering what's gonna hatch out of it, like, is it some kind of monster? This guy is already stressing out about how he's gonna handle raising a monster the second it finally hatches. He thinks grabbing the egg is the easy part, but everything else is about to get way more complicated. Laruka says hey to the hero and shows off the food she brought, just like she always does. She mentions hearing about those insane new elixirs and asks if these herbs belong to him, and Geo tells her she's right. The girl in the cap spots his stash of useful plants, so the boy says he'll try to grow them before asking what the deal is with the monsters. She explains that people actually want her to do that, but when the guy asks about eggs, Lyra is totally lost because she's never even heard of them. She explains that real monsters are super rare, but since they're naturally evil, they can never live in peace with humans. Laruka can't believe anyone was actually crazy enough to think they could raise a monster and live with it. Our hero starts to realize that they just don't fit together at all. He figures that as long as the monster is still tiny, he can just take care of it or stop it from hatching to avoid a total disaster later. He spots the egg starting to wiggle and he's totally caught off guard and terrified. He doesn't even care that his sister is running late, and even though the whole egg situation is pretty stressful, it still totally warms his heart. She's loving every single bite and thanks them for the awesome meal with a huge smile. Her brother points out she's really crushing her food today, and she explains it's because she had to go another round with that monster. The kid asks how deadly these monsters really are, so Santa remembers saving the girls from a beast that slashed them up with its claws to show him just how dangerous they can be. Our hero finally admits that these monsters are straight up heartless. The sister wonders if she could actually be friends with these nice monsters, comparing them to a golem, and realizing they could even become part of the family. My brother says life is way easier without her since she's basically a total slacker when she's at home. He tries to act like he isn't all alone, but his parents died way back and his sister is constantly off traveling. The kid checks on the egg and suddenly it starts to twitch. This dude is totally convinced he can raise a monster right from an egg. Our hero starts growing a massive stash of food right now just to make sure that monster is well fed later on. Geo checks on the egg and notices the monster inside is starting to move around like crazy. He's totally shocked to find that the egg has finally cooled down. He started worrying the monster inside was freezing and knew he had to warm that egg up right away. He covers the egg and realizes it's actually starting to get warm. He finally hits the sack, but he keeps the egg right by his side to make sure it stays safe. Geo's laying in bed holding onto that egg, just wishing it would hurry up and hatch already. The egg starts cracking open, and our hero is scrambling to figure out his next move. The kid starts giving them a massive pep talk to get them fired up. The kitten finally hatches, but the guy still thinks he's a total weakling. He's really out here thinking that some milk is exactly what he needs. He spots some coconuts full of milk up in the tree, and he's not letting anything stop him from getting a drink. Our hero feels totally refreshed and catches a super clean, amazing smell. He hooks the cat up with a fresh bowl of milk. The cat starts chugging the drink like crazy, and Geo is totally shocked by how much she's actually downing. He's hyped that the garden has everything they need to stay fed, and he can totally see that she's finally starting to act way happier. The boy is all smiles as he talks about how cute and fluffy the cat is, and he's clearly having a blast hanging out with her. She thinks she's a total monster, but he just sees a pet and is already trying to pick out a name for his new cat. He spots her bright white fur and suggests naming her Snowball or Iceball, all while keeping his voice super soft and gentle. The hero tells her that if she loves milk this much, she's basically gonna become Milky herself. Someone yelled that they were home, so Gio called his sister over to him. She asks what this miracle is all about, and her brother tells her the big news. She's finally moving in with them. She's totally obsessed with how cute the cat is, and he's definitely not telling her that it actually hatched from an egg. The cat bites Senna, and Gio is totally losing it because his sister is already chasing after the thing. Sana's totally fed up because her brother picks the cat over her every time, and she feels like the pet basically stole him from her. She gets super offended and yells that they're siblings, but Gio's just staring because he realizes her brother is literally a cat. He shouts that dinner is finally served and hands over some milk, but his sister is already begging for a glass too. The girl cheers about how sweet the milk is, the cat is totally loving it, and the guy thinks it's awesome they can get such a delicious feast right from the garden. He thinks they finally look like a legit family. Ju tells his family they've gotta hustle and sell way more stuff if they want to grow. She says today isn't just about the mission anymore because she just realized her whole stash of herbs is actually super rare. Marin spots some weird hairy grass she's never seen before, and the girl tells her it's actually used to brew an icy potion. She says this potion makes you totally immune to fire and heat, while Danail explains that changing the recipe can give it all kinds of different effects. Our hero thinks this ice potion is a total game changer for travelers, and Marin agrees, saying it's a lifesaver for those hard-to-reach dungeon spots. This potion is a total lifesaver for crazy spots, like if you're stuck inside a literal volcano crater. He says it's gonna vanish any second, and his friend points out it's because they're literally standing right in front of a volcano. Our hero sees that this dungeon is huge and gets way harder, with levels like caves, lava zones, forests, ruins, and even underwater areas. She explains that every level has its own monsters and rules, but the underwater floor is so hard that literally no one has cleared it yet. Eni warns them that this volcano level is insanely hot, and only a few people are actually tough enough to handle it. She's hyped because taking down these bosses means massive rewards and rare loot to make her famous, and Senna finally realizes they're about to face the volcano bosses. Eni's ready to call it quits because the heat is absolutely brutal, and without any water magic to cool them down, they're all completely wiped out. Shifa shows off a potion that looks like it's made of straight-up ice. She says if you drink this, fire and heat can't even touch you, and it's actually just a test sample from Mrs. Marine. The boss explains that Miss Marine gave them the potion for free as long as they test it out, and they're all hyped about how she turned that rare Hiyari herb into something so awesome. Then she drops the news that Marin actually bought that grass from Heo. The heroes chug the potion they were given, but one of them notices it's freezing cold and actually stings as it goes down. She's totally shocked that the potion stopped her sweating from the heat almost the second she drank it. Shifa is ready to head straight for the volcano right now, even though it's super dangerous. She starts describing the volcano and how the ground is basically on fire. Even though things are getting dangerous, Santa realizes the potion actually feels super refreshing and cool. The squad saw the potion was kicking in and the heat felt perfect, so they marched right up to the lava without breaking a sweat. 3 fire monsters suddenly blocked their path, and the heroes started to freak out. The girls realize these monsters are fire dogs, and they're definitely the toughest enemies they've ever faced. Shifa realizes that every time she slashes the monster, its fire starts to lose its power. Since the effect lasts so long, the demand is gonna skyrocket and every other team will be dying to buy it. Shifa promises they're totally safe with this potion and hypes everyone up to go take down the bosses. The kid is super hyped because they're about to score a massive haul of hairy grass, and he promises to do whatever it takes just to keep her entertained. He realizes he's still got some skills he hasn't even touched yet, and thinks it's time to finally put them to use. The hero calls it a super-powered fence, and when the system asks to build a wall, Gio gives it the green light. He's hyped to see a fence instead of a wall, but then he gets totally annoyed and yells that he doesn't even need it. The system asks if he wants to hide the area, and he gives it the green light. He notices that skills usually kick in right away, but this time absolutely nothing happens. He tries out some new crops, but they're just totally basic and nothing special at all. Our hero notices that the wheat, potatoes, and tomatoes that used to be totally basic are now looking like top-tier, high-quality crops. The kid's super hyped because he knows these crops are gonna taste way better. She's totally over this dungeon and is dying to get back to her comfy bed right now. She's completely caught off guard! The Senate starts grilling them, demanding to know where they're from and where their house is hidden. He explains he was just testing out his new moves in a secret spot, but he decides to quit using that power since he probably scared the whole neighborhood. The sister admits she was so exhausted she almost slept outside. Her brother points out she can barely even walk, and she snaps that he ruined everything with those new herbs again. She's complaining about hiking around a volcano all day, But the boy is totally bummed because he just sat there picking herbs while everyone else was out raiding dungeons. The brothers want to celebrate beating level 1 with a big dinner, and they even ask to invite the girls along. He says he's got dinner covered, and his sister says that's some serious motivation right there. The squad pulls up and finds the boss, a massive red lizard, standing right in their way. Word is this guy's the new big shot and everyone calls him Volcano. Santa spots a massive dragon with crazy tough scales, and it's easily the strongest enemy he's faced in years. Shifa's sure they can win this, so she tells everyone to team up and swarm the dragon from every single side. Annie thinks they should chug a little more potion just to be safe. She triggers her Empress's prestige skill, making her squad way stronger while making the bad guys feel totally weak. Senna mentions the guy they're fighting is actually super hot, so she's warned to keep her guard up. The boss sees the dragon staring Senna down and realizes getting close is going to be a total nightmare. There's no way she's finding anything on her own. She's totally sure that her skills are on a whole different level. The boss forces the lizard to bow down to show him who's really in charge. Annie's super hyped because she actually managed to wound the dragon, and she's realized that potion is the real deal. The girl thanks Annie for the backup and tells her they're way more powerful when they fight as a team. The squad teams up once more and decides to finally go all out. The girl is super hyped to see Shufu and gives him a massive happy hello. The boss welcomes Canaria back, and while they're catching up, Canaria spots a new face in the squad. It's the boss's old bestie, Senna. The Canary is starting to feel like surviving this dungeon gets way tougher every single day. She asks what they're up to and if they've got the results, so the heroes decide to just spill everything right now. She's totally shocked by the massive object in her hands and calls it a scale from a volcano. Shufa hands over the report and tells them they totally crushed the boss up on the volcano. Canary yells to see if it's legit. The boss says it's true, and the scale proves he's not lying. The receptionist confirms it's a red lizard scale and asks who helped them out, but the heroes tell her they handled the whole mission totally solo. Word is the boss is still stuck and needs a ride, so Canary agrees to help, but the gear to get through the volcano isn't ready yet. Annie just smirks and says they don't need any gear because this ice elixir will keep them chilled even if they're standing right at the edge of a volcano. The hero is totally shocked to see the volcano boss defeated, admitting he's never heard of a potion that powerful before. The travelers are super hyped because this potion actually works and doesn't even sting. They thank the heroes for the save, but the girl says they gotta keep moving since there's a lizard just lying right there. Gavoifa is only 18, but she's already a Class B fighter who literally took down a volcano. The guy was totally blown away when he saw the volcano looking completely stunned. He's shocked to see the volcano scales are barely scratched, meaning he can sell them for a massive payday. This guy asks how they kept the monster looking so perfect, since usually they're totally trashed after a fight. The hero is totally shocked to see the scales pierced in a single shot, and wonders who could have landed a hit that powerful. Shifu gets asked if she's the one who did this, but she says no, and Annie tells him she doesn't even know how to swing a sword like that. A bunch of guys are gossiping about Senna, refusing to believe she's the one responsible, but then she steps in and admits she totally did it. She flexes that as long as she's got a sword, she's the strongest person alive. Gio's jaw drops when he sees a massive pile of magic stones, but his sister explains that the tougher the monster, the bigger the reward. She says the boss was a beast, so the reward is totally worth it, and now she's asking for some praise while Milky meows because the cat wants some pets too. Senna's confused why they're hyping up the cat so much, but her brother says it's basically instant therapy, while the girl jokes that you shouldn't be petting a sister like that, leading Gio to tell her not to be jealous since Milky is still just a little kitten. He notices the cat is getting huge way too fast in just a few days. The brother is super hyped to use those new magic stones he just got to totally level up the garden. The system pings that he just leveled up, unlocking sick new skills, fresh cultures, and finally giving him access to copper and iron ore. This guy decides to just play it cool and act like he didn't see a thing. She tells him that starting tomorrow she's finally got the day off. He thinks they should invite the girls to a massive party to celebrate their big wins and all the cool stuff coming their way. With the dungeon finally cleared, the squad decides it's time for a massive victory feast. The girls are totally shocked by the massive feast that looks way too good to eat, and Gio gives Alicia a shout-out for helping him prep it all. Alicia then lets them know the cafe is strictly private just for them today, and every single ingredient came straight from Gio's garden. The girl says they can whip up as much food as they need and tells everyone to just go crazy and eat their fill. The crew is hyped after their big win and they're totally drooling over how good that steak looks. Shifa agrees it looks totally delicious, and Senna is already drooling because she can't wait to dig in. The kid tells them he's whipped up a meal using those top-tier new crops. Our heroes' jaws hit the floor the moment they saw the insane spread of food waiting for them on the table. Annie takes a bite and says it's so good she might actually pass out, and she just keeps digging in because she loves it so much. The chef says he's never gonna stop eating, and the whole crew is totally hyped and begging for more. Gio realizes that new cultures are actually dangerous because the food is so good it makes you want to eat everything in sight. The ingredients are just basic, but the girls are loving it because the tender, juicy meat and crispy onions are a perfect match. The food was so insanely good that they realized if a bad gang got their hands on it, they'd turn it into illegal drugs, so they decided to hide it far away. Shifa thanks Gio for the sweet reward, but he tells her it's the least he can do since she's always looking out for Senna. She points out that the center forward is a total beast on the field. They managed to pull it off in record time, and it was all thanks to the sister. He finally feels like he can actually do something to back up his squad. He straight up admits that he's still super jealous of them. Shifa thanks the kid for the ice potions that helped them survive the volcano and crush the boss, and she even admits that Gio is a total powerhouse too. Eni hooked everyone up with healing potions and handled the supplies, while his sister admitted that pushing deeper into the dungeon was getting way too dangerous. Alicia invites him to join the squad and says she'll handle the rest. Gio's totally down for it. He actually thinks he still has a shot at joining the squad. The girls thank him for the epic meal and say they're totally stuffed, so the hero tells Alicia the food was clearly fire since they ate every last bite. The boss gets asked when they're heading out again and says they're taking a break, so Annie jokes about helping at the restaurant even though she'll probably just sleep all day. The boy rethinks everything and puts his mission on hold, while the heroes say their goodbyes and head off in different directions. She calls him by name and tells him she really wants to thank him. She gives everyone the rundown on what food and herbs they managed to find today. Shifa asks the hero to go for a walk with her tomorrow. Our main guy is getting all dripped out in a fancy suit, and while his sister asks where he's headed, he looks super sharp with a cat just vibing nearby. He gives his cat Milk a final pat and tells her Senna's in charge today. But when the cat meows back all confused, he actually says sorry just in case he doesn't. He's stoked to finally have Sifa all to himself for their big date, hitting up some flashy spots and just keeping the vibes perfect. He's so hyped he can't stop grinning, but then he spots a girl standing right there who hits him with a friendly good morning. The shy guy nervously asks if he kept her waiting, but she says she just got there, so he tries to remember his date script and asks where they should head first. Sifa admits she's already got a plan, and while the guy is standing there shocked, she tells him to let her handle everything as a way to say thanks. Our guy is grinning like crazy because Sifa planned this whole date just for him, and he can already tell today is going to be legendary. She stops in her tracks and points at the creepy house, telling him they've finally made it. Our hero stands there in total shock, asking if this is Marlon's pharmacy, while the girl says yes and heads inside to say hi to someone. The maid greets them and notices it's super rare to see them alone, so she asks if they need anything. But when the girl says they're just looking, the maid straight up asks if they're on a date. Suddenly, her face drops as she realizes they definitely didn't come to this creepy building for a romantic date. Our MC is thinking this is the worst date spot ever, while Sifak just stares at the shelves wondering why they even showed up. Saifa just stares ahead in total silence, and while our MC is stoked to be with her, he's dying to know what's actually going on in her head. Suddenly, she looks right at Gio, catching him totally off guard, and asks if he's actually having fun. He fumbles for words and just says yes, but the truth is, he was totally zoned out staring at the seafood the whole time. They sneak out of the building while the maid waves them off, but then they stumble into a gun shop, and our guy realizes this is definitely not the right vibe for a date. He catches Safer staring off into space again, and when she asks if he's having fun, he says yeah, but then gets all awkward and asks if that's even okay. Since he's never been on a date, he thinks it's all about hanging out at clothing stores while a girl asks him which outfit looks the best. A guy with a mustache waves them over, pointing at some new thing he just got and asking if they want to try it out, while the boy and girl just stare at him in total silence. She tries on the first outfit and the MC says she looks super tough, but it's way too heavy, so she switches to a really revealing one that's much lighter, making him. Cypher asks Gio which one looks better, so Gio picks the light one while admitting it still looks kind of bad. Then he gets all shy and looks away while mumbling that it's not a big. He looks away and tells her she actually looks way better in her normal clothes. Sifa's totally blushing and caught off guard when they head out, and she stays completely silent even when Gio asks if she wants to buy anything. CIFA hauls the guy to a massive building where the journey finally ends. And trust me, this is definitely not the kind of place you'd go on a date. Sifa explains that the lobby is right here, the hotel is upstairs, and the training area is in the basement. And even though Tom realizes he's totally been here before, he agrees to go check it out anyway. Everyone's jaw drops when Sifu suddenly shows up, and they're totally stunned to realize this girl is actually a B-rank adventurer. She finally realizes she's a total celebrity, and he's still losing his mind that he's actually on a date with the famous Sifa, right until someone screams at him to pay. A guy points his sword at a dude on the floor and warns him that if he keeps shaking, the monsters are gonna eat him, and he totally agrees. You've got guys firing arrows, others clashing swords, and one dude just taking a break while Sifa watches the whole scene. He's standing right there next to her, totally losing it because he can't tell if this is actually a real date. Let's be real, this was never actually a date, and he was the only one clueless enough to think it was. Sifa said they were just going for a walk, but her real plan was a total mystery. She asked if he was having fun again, and even though he said yes, the whole vibe felt super suspicious. Two guys hype their friend up, telling him this is his big moment and they've totally got his back. He looks totally shook like he's about to confess his feelings to Sifi, but instead, he bows his head and reaches out his hand to ask her to be his training partner. She tries to say she's busy, but Gio brushes it off and admits he's actually dying to see her fight. Sifa's got her spear ready while the guy pulls his sword, and our MC is hyped because he's finally about to see her fight for real. The kid screams that he's going for it, lunges at her, and even though she blocks him, he jumps right back in with another strike. The guy is totally caught off guard when she suddenly appears and smacks the sword out of his hand, leaving him and our main hero completely stunned. He hits the floor, she levels her spear right at his face, and he immediately calls it quits. He's totally blown away by her slick moves and realizes she's actually a total legend, feeling super hyped that he finally got to see Sifa in her epic adventure mode. Another girl walks up and asks to train, but Sifa totally shuts her down and says she's done for the day. She's got a super busy day, so everyone's jaw drops when she actually walks up to the guy who asked if she was finished. The girl asked Gio if he was hungry, and when he said yeah, she suggested they hit up a super trendy cafe. They walk into the building, and the guy is totally shocked to realize they were literally just here yesterday. Right at the entrance, a girl in a uniform holding a menu stops them, looking totally shocked to see Gio and Sifa as she asks what they're even doing there. He realizes it's actually Annie, just like she promised when she said she'd help out at the restaurant. Sifa coolly says they're just there for food, and while she totally gets it, the real deal is that she's already dragging him off to some mystery spot. She asks if they're finally alone and if this is a date, but when he asks what she's getting out of it, she snaps and says there's no other reason. Gio says Sifa picked all the spots, but it didn't feel like a date at all, and the girl suddenly realizes they just ended up back at their own restaurant. Gio was having a total blast, even though he had no clue what she was thinking, and didn't even realize they were on a date. She tells him he's nowhere near ready, and that it's 100 years too early for him to date science fiction, leaving him totally stunned while Annie tells him to grab a seat so she can take their order. Gio realized he was way too cocky because Sifa is older, a pro traveler, and she's totally out of his league. As soon as he shows up, Safa asks what they talked about, but he keeps it vague because he's convinced it wasn't a real date since the spots they visited weren't even that special, and when she asks if he's worn out, she tells him to chill out because a good meal fixes everything, and he realizes she's actually way more simple than he thought. He flashes a grin and tells her she's totally right about needing food, so they should just keep ordering more, even if this isn't actually a date. He still ends up hanging out with Cypher at Lucas, which is easily the best restaurant he's ever been to in the entire world. Our hero is picturing that one special spot where they both want to speak up, but they're both waiting for the other to go first. She asks if he's actually happy with her, since she tried so hard to pick cool spots but totally messed it up. She really wanted him to have a blast since this was her big way of saying thanks for everything. But since she had zero clue how to actually make someone happy, she just took him to all her favorite spots and prayed he'd love them too. He was totally shocked that these spots meant so much to her, and she even thought about hitting the dungeon before backing out. She asks him if he liked it, and our main guy tells her he totally did. He tells her that as long as they're together, he'll have a blast anywhere. But then it hits him that he basically just confessed his feelings. She smiles and says yes, leaving him relieved that she's both a total weirdo and super cool at the same time. He saw a side of Sifa he never knew existed, but man, the day was still totally awesome. She tells him there's one more stop and leads him right to her house, and while he's freaking out about meeting her dad, she just says it's one of her favorite places to hang out. Our hero is totally lost in his own head until a girl interrupts him with some majorly bad news straight from the workshop. He finds out her family owns a forge, and she asks what's the deal with Billy's dad. The dad asks who he is, and when the kid gives his name, the father is stoked he's finally here, even though he knows exactly why he's with Sif. He acts all serious and asks if he's actually scoring a date with the daughter, but she tells him to drop it and asks what went down since they're in a total mess right now. Suddenly, a guy shows up, tells everyone they're being way too loud, and asks what's going on with the money. They look at the bald guy and ask him why he even showed up in the first place. This is Kasia, and he's showing up to remind him that he's been dodging his debt for 3 whole months. The guy swore he'd totally return them, so they went ahead and accepted a massive order. Sifa asks a buddy what's going on, and he tells her the merchant who placed the order just straight up disappeared. Kazuya begs him to stop, but once she asks why he can't just get it together, he starts totally freaking out. He's trying to ignore the bad vibes, but he's starting to think his dealer just totally set him up. He just laughs and asks why he'd even think that. He's already given him way too many chances to pay back the money. After all, he's a legit debt. Go see if his dad is asking for more time to pay it all back, but Kasya is totally done waiting. He already gave the blacksmith his deposit, and if he doesn't get paid, the guy yells that this forge is his whole world since his grandpa passed it down, and he's definitely not letting anyone wreck it. Pasea points his finger right in her face and calls her out for giving away her own daughter. Our MC screams at him to stop talking trash, and everyone there is totally shocked by his outburst. Garcia storms toward the guy who just leaked the secret, but someone jumps in to block his path. The guy tells Jose they've still got plenty of time before the meeting, so he should just let him go. Kasha knows he's got him cornered, so he gives him just 3 days to come up with the cash. One of the guys tells the boss he's been hitting up the Adventurers Guild like crazy, but they've never even heard of a merchant with that name. He thought Hase was the one calling the shots this whole time, so he says sorry to Gio for dragging him into this and asks what's really going on. Things aren't exactly perfect. They've got pro workers and a huge fan base, but they're struggling to find new people and are totally losing money. He was just chilling at the tavern one night when a moneylender named Hasea walked right up to him. So that's how they met, and at first he seemed like a totally chill guy, but right after they got an order from a fake trader, he just completely ghosted him. He admits he's way too trusting. It's his fault they're stuck in this mess. They don't have any proof Kasea did it. Paying back that debt is... Something feels totally wrong to our MC, because instead of asking for the money, the guy is actually blocking the payment, and now he's wondering if he even needs that workshop at all. He probably needs it, and Sifa really wants to snag that boss reward, but 3 days is way too short to pull it off. Our MC tells them they owe him big time, so he's down to help out if it's not too much trouble. The guy flashes 5 fingers and tells him it's actually 500 gold coins. Everyone is losing their minds because they have to scrape together 500 gold coins in just 3 days. Saifa says sorry for needing backup, but he's ready to do whatever it takes to help out. He suspects Reza is actually after Sifa, but since selling the harvest takes way too long, he's definitely up to something else. He really wants to talk to Laruka about it, but she's nowhere to be found until she shows up for the harvest tomorrow morning. He's got no time to waste, so he's heading straight to the trade guild to dig up some info on her. They tell him she's a total ghost of a trader, and even they don't know her spot, so he begs for at least a general idea of where to find her. She's got no clue where it could be, but then she suddenly shows up and says this is a super weird spot for a meeting. He's totally caught off guard and tells her he's actually been looking for her because he's got some serious business to handle. She listens to him and admits things sound pretty serious, so he tells her he's got something big to show her. Our hero pulls out a sparkling rock, and the girl's jaw drops when she realizes it's actually a chunk of gold. Gio tells her he literally grew her in the garden, which leaves her totally speechless, and he adds that selling a pile of this ore will finally pay off all their debts. She warns him it's not that simple since the big bosses and the law control the mines, and if he tries to sell a massive stash, they'll bust him for illegal mining, leaving him stuck at a total dead end. She asks if he's got anything else like mithril, which is found in high mana spots where kings can't reach, but she warns him that selling it will definitely look super suspicious. She says she's got a plan and wants to handle the job, but he's stressing because they only have 3 days left to pay off that debt. She flashes a smile and tells him not to worry because she's got this covered, and he's totally down to let her handle it. The kid is putting all his faith in her, but looking at the tiny pile of cash they scraped together, the man realizes it's just not enough, and they're about to lose the workshop for good. Out of nowhere, the main character and Laruka show up, and she explains she's a merchant who's there to place an order because of what Gio told her. The guy says they're closing up, but when the girl tells him the client already paid up front, he's totally shocked. Lyric has no clue if this is enough to pay off his debt, but he's got to talk to them and check something out first. The guy's jaw drops at the massive pile of mithril, but she's actually got way more in her magic bag, and she'll give it all to them if they can make 200 sets of swords and shields. She flashes the contract and asks if it's enough, leaving the guy speechless because a massive order for 200 sets means their debt is finally history. He figures this is way too good to be true, thinks he's being played, and gets dead serious. She stays totally chill and tells him she gets why he's suspicious since it's his first deal. But Gio is the one who actually put her in charge. Sifa heads back to her dad and tells him she's totally fine, but he realizes right away that this guy was the one who actually protected her. The guy agrees to the deal, promises to give it everything he's got, and shakes hands with Larizia, who's totally counting on him to pull through. She hands him a pouch of cash, and the guy's jaw drops when he sees it's full of platinum coins. The kind of super rare money Cypher knows is only used by rich nobles and big-shot merchants. He's walking along, but then he suddenly stops dead in his tracks. Just as Kasia is heading out, she runs into a guy and asks why he's in such a massive rush. Kasia and his crew corner him, asking if he was seriously trying to sneak out of the city in the middle of the night. The guy reminds him that today is payday, and if he tries to run away, it's going to be a huge problem. The dad tells his daughter to stay put since she's a target, and the boy agrees the workshop is the safest place for her. Kasia asks the blacksmith if he got the cash together, and the guy admits he was 500 gold coins in debt that day. The guy flashes 2 coins and says it's plenty, leaving everyone in the room totally shocked. Everyone's dying to know how he made that much cash in only 3 days. Lyrica throws her hand up and announces they've finally settled things, reminding everyone she's just the middleman. Fasea's totally stunned and wonders who this guy really is, since he never expected anyone to pull together that much cash in just 3 days, and now the guy's even claiming he totally forgot about the interest. The guy asks again, and Hosea says it's a no-brainer to delay the payment since he's felt sorry for him so many times already. He says he needs 1,500 gold coins, and while the other guy thinks he's just making it up, that's actually the real debt he's stuck with. The guy realizes he doesn't have nearly enough cash in the shop to pay what he owes, so he decides to give away his daughter instead. The man is angry and says that he will have to kill his opponent, while others ask him to calm down because they do not want to resort to fighting. Our hero walks right up to the bald guy with a dead serious look and tells him there's no way he's letting this happen, leaving the guy totally shocked. Pasea snaps the moment she recognizes him, demanding to know why he's interfering and if he's got a death wish, but he just tells her that this whole mess actually involves him. He tells her straight up that Sepha is his best friend, and she's totally caught off guard. The guy grabs him and asks if he's ready to keep his pride and handle the pain of the real world, because they're about to find out right now. Lyric stops them right there and admits she couldn't finish the job for the client. She flashes the paper and reveals her client actually owns all this land, and everyone's jaws just hit the floor. Inside the palace, someone at the table says they're totally out of options and just have to help Larizia. Our girl's jaw drops as it finally clicks what the leader of Arcel is actually trying to say. The second Aya pulls her hand away and thinks about the seal. All her doubts are finally gone. The song warns him that if he tries to rip anyone off in the workshop, the ruler is totally going to find out. Kazia's friends are absolutely fuming, but he just grits his teeth and takes the 500 gold coins. The guy tells them it's time to move out, and the 4 of them just watch as they head off. The guy's freaking out and asking if the kid is okay, leaving the boy totally stunned, and then someone turns right toward Gio. Our guy says sorry to Sypha for how he acted, but he's honestly just hyped that everything worked out in the end. Out of nowhere, she pulls him into a massive hug, leaving him totally stunned while everyone watches her finally thank Gio. The kid is still in shock and says they'd be toast without Laruka, while another guy asks if she really got orders from the ruler and calls her an incredible traitor. She was stoked to help out because Gio is always going all out for everyone else. She tells him he looked like a total badass and a real knight, but then he realizes he just said something super gutsy right in front of Cypher. She admits she didn't hear a single thing because she was way too far away, and Gio is totally caught off guard. The man reminds Sepha that he saved them and demands another thank you, but Sepha just says a single hug is plenty. He knows there's no way a regular person could ever stand their ground against a guy this terrifying. Kasia is totally fuming and can't believe he messed up his own plan after spending so much time on it. One of the guys tells him that he couldn't find her hideout no matter how hard he looked, but he did track down the most popular spot in town. This is the house where a brother and sister live now that they're adults, and since that guy is there too, it's the perfect chance to snatch him up. She finally finished her brand new potion, and it's a total success, so they both stop to stare at the glowing blue liquid inside the bottle. When Dennis suggests a new potion, the maid says testing it is her job, and immediately downs the foamy drink herself. The girl tells her to dunk her face into the water while holding the bucket, and she actually does it. Her jaw drops when she realizes she can breathe underwater, and Dennis tells Marlene that's definitely not normal. Marlon says this potion made from airy flowers lets you feel totally normal underwater, just like you're still on land. TA asks if Gio brought these flowers, and he totally did, which is a huge deal because they only grow way up in the mountains and are super rare ingredients. She's still dying to know where he gets all those ingredients, so she turns to Marlon for the scoop. She's asking what to do with the water in the bottle, but she really needs to just dump it all out right now or handle it herself. Marlon says she needs some water and that this bottle is going to be a legendary treasure passed down through her family. Sypha walks right in and says sorry for the interruption, but the girls are totally blown away that he actually brought it. Dennis dumps all the water out, making Marlon burst into tears, and then he just casually says what's up to Seferi. Dennis asks the girl if she's there for her travel supplies, and she's actually right on time because Marlene already finished making the potion. Milk caught a whiff of something amazing, realized it was finally time to eat, and jumped up with her meal ready to go. Our guy starts chatting with his milk and tells it that fried mackerel is his absolute favorite food. My sister says he's getting massive since he started eating more than just milk, and now this cat is way bigger than she ever imagined. He's still convinced it's a monster egg, and because he's so attached to it, he doesn't even realize the milk might be dangerous. He clutches the milk and admits he's still a total baby, even though he's an adult, making his sister call him adorable and try to pet him. Milk stares her down as the guy tells Senny he doesn't love her, and she immediately asks him why. He asks if she's hitting the dungeon today and tells her to eat up. But since she's still looking for a partner, he wants to know which area they're actually exploring. The whole crew is standing at the entrance to the underwater zone, and even though they're at a total disadvantage having to hold their breath, they're finally going to see if this water potion works as well as the ice did. They both dive into the water at the same time, sinking way down into the deep. She's totally shocked that she can breathe and walk underwater like it's nothing, and her clothes aren't even getting wet. They can hear each other perfectly, and as she looks at her team, her sharp instincts tell her the monster is closing in. A scary shark with sharp teeth swims right up to them, and the girls totally think it's just a massive fish. One of them jumped into the chase and instantly took the shark out with a single hit. Everyone's hyped because Sina's still a beast with the sword and Marlin's potions never miss, especially with Geo helping out. But they're about to find out they were dead wrong. They're going in totally blind, so they have to scout every room and mark down everything they find on their map. They head down the aisle and see all these cool fish and plants, totally blown away by how beautiful everything looks. The girls think it's coral and realize this place would be a total tourist goldmine if it wasn't a dungeon. But they better stay alert because a monster is lurking right behind those reefs. There are fish here that even Geo hasn't seen, and I'm dying to know if they taste good. But raising monsters is definitely a huge mistake. She says the monsters aren't even that scary, but the real nightmare is breathing underwater. Though some water potions make the whole dungeon a total breeze, and then she spots something and asks to. The three girls freeze in total shock at the massive dark shadow, convinced they've finally found the big boss of the underwater zone. Back at Geo's house, it's late, and he's totally knocked out. But outside, someone whispers to check if they're at the right spot and gets a, "Yep, this is it." Shady figures outside realize his sister is gone, so they decide it's the perfect time to grab him and start the chase. The second the door swings open, Milk starts growling and yanking on the boy's shirt to wake him up. And when the kid asks what's going on, Milk just stares. He stares at the door wondering if it's Senna, but it's definitely not her, so who the heck is it? Suddenly, the Milk lets out a massive roar and charges straight at the enemies, who are totally freaking out and wondering if this thing is actually a cat. One guy pulls a knife and the MC screams for his student to watch out, but Milk just casually dodges the attack like it's nothing. He swipes at one of the enemies with his paw, making them scream that this cat is totally weird and they need to get it out of there right now. Our hero is totally stunned and asks Milk if he's okay. But he quickly realizes the danger is far from over, and they need to book it to the garden right now. The main character goes outside with a cat, and he is immediately noticed and told that he is in the yard and needs to be caught. Geo manages to slip away, but he knows if these guys hunt him down and catch him, things are gonna get really ugly. He tells Milk to chill because his friends are super strong, but then a massive golem suddenly pops out of nowhere. He lunges at one of the guys, but another golem is lurking right behind him, and everyone is losing it because golems shouldn't even be in a place like this. One of the guys tells everyone to stay cool because they're totally outnumbered and even more enemies are on the way. The enemies are stunned by this. They ask how many of them are here and how many more will have to trample with just one guy. The guy tells his boss that golems are crawling out of nowhere. Geo is shocked to see another person show up, and when a golem tries to jump the guy, he manages to react just in time. He wipes out the golem in a split second, asks his crew what's wrong with these weak clay toys, and since he makes it look like a total joke, his people are absolutely hyped. Our guy is totally stunned when he realizes this is the same debt collector back for revenge, so he wastes no time and absolutely wrecks that golem. One guy warns that they'll just keep rising back up, but Hasea ignores him and takes out another golem. He's busy duking it out with the group when he suddenly spots our hero stepping out from behind a tree in the milk. They know that even if he grills Geo, making more of them won't change a thing. It's all totally useless. Our main guy is trying to bolt, but Chelsea shouts that there's no way he's getting away and he better stop wasting his time. A massive golem suddenly steps out from behind the tree, and even though Kazeya is totally shocked and asking what it is, he's already getting ready to fight. He swings his sword at the column, but his jaw drops when the blade just snaps in half. He thinks it's all just a joke, but as he hits the dirt, He's left wondering where all these monsters even came from. Kaseya shows up and asks his people if these clay golems are giving them a hard time. The main character behind the tree is impressed by how strong this man is. He easily deals with the golems. At this rate, he will destroy them all. Milk transforms into Geo and backs away, but they've got to figure something out fast because those giants aren't even slowing him down. Our guy is looking for a way out when suddenly the system pings, announcing that thanks to the Mega Guard, Geo's garden just hit level 20. Geo looks around and realizes he hasn't used this skill yet, so even though it's a total gamble, he goes for it and a golem starts rising right out of the clay. He's totally shocked he can make more of these giant guards, so he just keeps hitting yes on the system prompts until 3 more massive ones appear. The guy freezes in total shock at these guards, and even our MC is stunned he could summon golems this massive, but it's a good thing it's late at night since The guy just slumps to the ground, staring at the golems and thinking this whole situation is straight up insane. Our MC tells the golems to kick that guy out, and right away, one of them reaches out to grab Kisei. The golem actually snatches the guy, but he starts thrashing around and screams for it to let him go right now. He looks down, shocked by the height. Golem lets him go, and he falls, painfully hitting his back on the ground. He's coughing up blood and passed out cold on the ground as his whole squad rushes over in total shock. 2 of them take this, and everyone thinks that it's pure madness here, not a garden, so they need to leave. There will be nothing good for them here, after which everyone runs away. The protagonist silently looks ahead, then at the giant, and asks if there is no longer a threat. Milk happily starts rubbing against the owner's leg, and this pleases Geo. The man considers himself a pet of the Mega Guards and tells them what he would do without them. At the same time, many different species of fish swim in the underwater zone, while 3 girls come ashore and sit down. One of them says she just can't believe that the boss was such a colossal monster, about 100 meters long. She shouldn't have taken the unfamiliar terrain lightly. Sifa asks her if she thinks they will be able to defeat him. The girl says yes, she thinks he will be very tasty. But it's not worth thinking about that right now, although she agrees. So far, everything is going well. In the end, they decided to explore the area a bit more before returning. For now, they would not fight the boss. He is so big that they would notice his arrival immediately, and they also have Annie's gift. First, you need to drink the potion. One girl gives it to another, she thinks. The third one believes that for such a large monster, its presence looks too strange, and perhaps they really imagined it. The girls are underwater and say that they have probably explored enough, so they can safely surface and finally return home. They agree to stay vigilant on the way back, because next time they will need a plan against the boss, after which all 3 look ahead, wonder, and freeze. A huge black sea monster appears before them, and they are so scared that they cannot move. The girls are surprised at how he suddenly appeared right in front of them. Her hunting instinct did not sense him. Then they decide to escape from here, but realize that this monster is chasing them. He opens his mouth and starts sucking in water. The girls look around and realize that at this pace he will swallow them. Suddenly Cypher stops, shocking both girls, and she says that he isn't that scary after all. The girl says that the volcano was not like this. Sifa extends her hand forward and uses the power of the Empress, a gift that weakens enemies. But the stronger the enemy, the less effective this gift is. So, against such a gigantic opponent, he is unlikely to be of any use. The girl notices something and asks them to look over there. They are stunned and watch as his body begins to disintegrate. The braid admits that it knew this all along. In fact, it's not one big fish, and the monster continues to fall apart. In fact, it was a school of small fish. There were many of them. The girls were surprised and realized that this was why his presence was so weak, that she felt nothing. And the girl grabbed her sword. The girls stand in front of a shoal of fish and realize that it was all just a deceptive performance. However, they ask not to be careless, as there is most likely a leader among them, stronger than the others, and one of the girls steps forward. She is going to take care of all the fish at once, extends her hand with magic and says she will take on the support, asking the little fish to bow before her. When the fish listened to the girl and swam straight to them, another girl attacked them with a sword. The girl says that it seems the Empress's power is putting them at a disadvantage. Their movements have become quite slow, so they will gradually reduce their ranks. After that, the fish swim straight towards the girls, and some bump into them, causing them to scream. They realize that this huge school of fish is moving straight towards them. It can't keep hitting like this. The girls watch as the fish gather together again. It seems that the fish are returning, and the girl is trying to lure the little fish to herself. The girls again realize that everything is very bad. If they continue to be attacked like this, they will be in danger, and it will hurt them a lot. The girl notices the largest fish among all and realizes that it is herself. after which she successfully slices it in half with a sword. The fish lets out its last gasp, and after its death, all the little fish start to flee, and all the girls notice this. They talk about how suddenly everyone ran away, and whether this is the end. The girl who killed the fish tells them that when she killed it, everyone else ran away. This slave was undoubtedly the leader among them and commanded all the others, which surprised the girls. Santa is asked how she noticed it in this crowd of fish and killed it. She says that she only noticed it by chance and instinctively cut it in half, smiling. The girl's friends praise her for her unmatched skill, saying that she is incredible, and the girl awkwardly laughs. In the end, they discuss whether he was the boss of this area. Most likely yes, but appearances can be deceiving, and he still turned out to be strong. Senna's whole body hurts. Then they enter the passage because they need to return to the guild and tell everything. In the guild, a cheerful girl immediately greets them, telling Sifi that she has arrived just in time, and all the girls are surprised. Sifa asks Kenalia what happened, and she tells him that she has great news, and they recently managed to conquer the volcanic region. Due to their achievements, some people really want to meet them, and the girls are surprised by this. CIF reports that they have completed the conquest of the underwater area. Initially, Kenalia reacts calmly, then screams and is in shock from this news. The girl is shocked and says that she simply cannot find the words to express how they managed to achieve such an incredible result in such a short time. Now they will definitely be warmly welcomed. The person who wants to meet with them is the ruler of our chamber himself. The girls are shocked that it is the ruler himself. Kenalia says they were told they were invited directly to the castle. One of them says that it is an important person and asks if they have met with rulers. But for ordinary people like them, such individuals are unattainable, like flying in the clouds. Kenalia says that since they took over the volcano, it's become a total hotspot for adventurers, and the whole area is getting rich from all the rare materials being found there. The king wants to meet these young rookies for the first time after their big win. But honestly, it's all thanks to that apothecary's secret potion. Kenalia admits that's why she got an invite too, but she's super shy and this whole situation is making her feel really awkward. Gio's sister starts asking questions, but her friend shuts her up real quick because his garden is a massive secret. Kenalia knows this is sudden, but they have to be back at the castle for dinner in 5 days, and Sifus is totally down since they're taking a break right after they crush the underwater region. The girls are totally hyped that break is finally here, so they agree to meet up in 5 days and head their separate ways. Gio's sister struts down the street, thinking about how she's been absolutely crushing it as an adventurer, and is totally ready for Gio to spoil her. He's just holding his plate thinking everything is back to normal, but Milk hasn't been able to relax for a single second since that incident. Our guy thinks back to those bandits and realizes he has no clue if they've actually given up yet. They could strike again any second, the hay is still sitting there, and we have no clue if they actually captured it yet. A sudden creak echoes through the room, totally spooking the MC and Milk, and as Milk bolts ahead, the boy wonders if those guys are back for more. It's actually Sainat, and she's totally shocked to see Milk acting so hyper, but our main guy is just stoked she finally showed up. She's super hyped that things are going great, but she showed up way later than usual today, so Sina tells her brother that something crazy happened, and she's got to rest for a few days. Our hero calms Milk down and explains that Senna isn't an enemy, and as the cat relaxes, the girl asks if they're doing okay. He spills the whole story to her, and she's totally stunned, asking him one more time if he really got jumped in the middle of the night. She asks if he's hurt, but Gio tells her the Milk and the giants totally kept him safe. After that, they couldn't even sleep because they had no idea when the next attack would strike. She hears everything and realizes things are getting way too real, making her wonder who these attackers even are. He remembers this massive bald guy covered in tattoos who was a beast with a sword, and his only goal was taking down giants. He warns Cinny to barricade her door at night since an attack could happen anywhere, but she tells him to stop worrying because she can totally handle herself. The guy tells her that even though she's an adventurer, she's still a total rookie who doesn't take anything seriously. The girl tells Gio she's meeting the city's ruler soon, and he totally freaks out asking what she did, but she tells him she was actually invited right as the sun. Geostan, Gollum, and Milk are brainstorming how to use Senna's magic stone to beef up the garden, while wondering if she's losing sleep just to grind as an adventurer. He's determined to do whatever it takes to keep her from pushing too hard, and while Mega Halems are seriously powerful, they're completely useless once the sun comes up. He's looking for a different way to take down Kazi, thinking back to the magic stone and how his new skill lets him grow some crazy new crops. Suddenly, he remembers this secret move he mastered a while back but never actually used, and now he's finally ready to test it out. He zips through the gardens and is hyped that he can teleport away, but when the system asks to move and Gio hits yes, it just doesn't work. He knows this is just a temporary fix, so he's already planning to find a way better skill as soon as he can. Geo tries to activate his garden movement skill, and when the system asks to switch to movement mode, he just agrees even though he's totally lost. Suddenly, the ground starts shaking like crazy, and Milk rushes over to him, totally terrified. He's in total shock, asking what's going on when he finally spots the house right in front. Our guy looks over and sees the house next door has actually shrunk, but that's literally impossible. He walks up to the house and is totally floored when he realizes he's actually standing on new. The system asks to move the garden, and when he says to bring it a bit closer, the entire house spawns right in his face, making him scream for it to back off. Suddenly the house shifts back, and it hits him. He can't just run through the garden because he'd be way easier to spot than those massive golems. He thinks these skills are a total headache, but he's hyped to grow something absolutely insane with his harvest. Our guy stares at a list made of nothing but colors and collapses to the ground, totally losing all hope. He sadly says he doesn't need it anymore, but then out of nowhere the Milk literally licks his face. The kid looks at Milk and the giant in total shock, realizing they're actually just trying to cheer him up. Our guy warns them that if this goes down again, he's going all out to handle it and he's totally banking on their help. He stands up and realizes he's still shaking a bit, but now he's got Cyan right there by his side. He realizes he can't let fear stop him if he's going to keep her safe, and she's standing right there listening to every word. He realizes it's time for her to wake up, rushes home, and orders Senna to smash the barricade, but she just calmly opens it up like it's nothing. He steps into the room and sees the bed is totally empty, turning back to his sister in complete shock. Kazuya is shaking with pure rage as he slams his fist into the wall, thinking about Geo and swearing he's gonna make him pay for everything. They totally panicked and ran away from a literal kid, proving they're all talk because they've never even seen these golems before, and wouldn't have stood a chance anyway. He lost his rank, his crew totally bailed on him, and after getting kicked out, he was a marked man for knowing their secrets. Now he's being forced to take out Geo. He knows that jerk is behind everything, but since he can't just barge into that creepy house, he decides to wait for him to step out onto the street. He spots a girl walking out and remembers hearing that Geo lives with his adventurer's sister. He knows she's the perfect bait now that she's grown up, so he uses her to lure this guy right in. He tails her into a quiet alley, realizes this is the perfect chance, and looks back at the girl while she stands there with her back turned. Kiseo warns Santi to keep her mouth shut if she wants to stay alive, and then the girl starts describing exactly what the guy looks like. She turns to him with a smile and asks if he's the one who attacked her brother, and the guy is totally caught off guard. He's totally lost on why she's acting weird, so he asks if her brother filled her in, and when she nods, he says things just got way easier since she's going to do exactly what he tells her from now on. She just calmly says no, so Kisei pulls out a sword and tells her she clearly doesn't realize how much trouble she's actually in. She tells him straight up that he needs to wake up and see the mess he's actually in. Out of nowhere, the girl strikes. The guy's sword hits the ground, and blood starts pouring from his shoulder. Blood hits the ground as he stands there in total shock, completely blindsided because he didn't see a single thing. She walks right up to him and says he's put her brother in serious danger, and she's not forgiving him for scaring him like that because as long as he's around, her brother can't even sleep in peace. The guy jumps back in total shock and tells her to get up, looking legit terrified of her for a second. She points her sword right at him and warns him to stay away from her brother, making Kasia realize he's seriously messed up by getting close to them. Our hero rushes back to Sen to see what went down, but he just asks where she's been, and she casually says she was just out for a walk. He reminds her that he warned her yesterday about the danger of going out alone, but he's totally stunned when she reveals she actually met Hosea. She tells him he can finally relax because that guy promised to leave him alone for good. He asks if she was actually in trouble. She says yeah, and he's totally hyped about it. He's honestly not sure if he just gave up or if she's actually just that much of a beast. Sina asks Geo to finally chill out, saying she's got a massive sleep ahead of her, and Geo knows she's totally right. She tells him not to worry because she's got his back forever. But he's feeling pretty awkward about his little sister being his bodyguard. She tells him it's all good because he's actually just a big softie who's way too weak. Our MC bursts into the room and wakes Senna up, telling her he's got a massive meeting today. It suddenly hits her that she's actually got a meeting with the ruler of Arsala today. This guy in a suit and a maid welcome the girls with big smiles, thanking them for showing up before he tells Sifa, Annie, Senna, and Marlon to follow him. The girls walk around totally blown away by how massive this place is, and how everything looks super fancy and expensive. They're super nervous and dying to know what this ruler is like, especially since he only took the throne a few years back. Sifa tells him she needs to talk, looking back at the girl who's totally falling behind. Marlon's totally over it and just wants to go home since she's not even sure why she's there, And even though the ruler praised her for all her hard work, she's still bummed that Denise didn't get an invite to join them. Marlin asks why since Denise helps her out every day and keeps her going, but the man just says they're here and walks inside to announce the guests. The girl in the room thanks them for showing up, introduces herself as the ruler Elizabeth Arsol, and gives them a super warm welcome. All three of them are totally stunned by how gorgeous she is, but Sina actually blurts it out, and the girls have to tell her to stop being so rude in front of the ruler. Sifa asks Elizabeth if they've met before, but one of the girls thinks there's no way that's possible. Then Elizabeth drops a total bombshell and says she actually saw Santa just a few days ago. She's totally hyped to finally deal with that famous pharmacist everyone's talking about, while Marlin gets spooked and hides behind Sifa's back. Suddenly, the girls connect the dots and realize Elizabeth is actually the traveler Eliza, and she's just super hyped they finally caught on. Turns out that girl from the dungeon is actually the ruler, and it honestly makes zero sense. She says sitting on a throne all day makes you weak, so she sneaks out to live as an adventurer named Eliza. The guy had no clue Countess Vi was pulling double duty as a ruler and an adventurer, but Elizabeth says it's actually a great way for their knights to get some real fighting practice. It finally clicks for her that they only scored a B rank because her whole squad are actually knights from the castle. Elizabeth says that's a total lie because she actually ran away from home as a teen to travel the world, and that's when she got her big promotion. 5 years ago, her big brother died when she was 30, forcing her to give up her life as a traveler and head home to take over as the ruler. Sorry for the long backstory. Elizabeth says she brought them here to say thanks because their insane dungeon runs are making the whole town rich. One of the girls brags about how much respect they get, and Elizabeth mentions she heard they just took over a crazy underwater kingdom, so she asks them to tell her the whole epic story over dinner. They walk up to the fancy table and are totally blown away by the massive feast. Everything is going wild and they can't believe they're actually eating food from the castle. Santa says it's amazing, and even though her friend wants them to be polite, Elizabeth tells everyone to just chill and enjoy. She tells them her top chefs poured their hearts into this meal, so they should totally eat as much as they want. One of them takes a bite and is totally blown away because the meat is so juicy it literally melts in his mouth. Siva thinks the soup looks and smells amazing, and after taking a sip, she's blown away by how good it tastes. She's blown away by the fish because it's super expensive at the market, but she's not surprised a ruler has it. And then Marlin jokes that Dennis's cheeks are actually way tastier. Everything is so fresh and packed with flavor that it's actually triggering a major flashback. Elizabeth asks what's wrong and which dish they hate, but it's actually the opposite because the food is super delicious. The meal was cooked perfectly, but Elizabeth realized the ingredients were on another level, so she straight up bought everything the merchant was selling. She won't say where she got the goods, but the girls already know Gio is the one who grew them. Sifa's totally shocked that all his hard work ended up like this. He knows there's no way he can let her see the garden. They all knew this was the deal. Once they finish eating, Elizabeth asks if they're full, and they all thank the ruler for the super tasty meal. Elizabeth tells them that since they've done such an awesome job, she's giving them a huge award right now. No matter what, the girls were totally convinced this vacation was their big reward. The guy tells the boss that Laruka is back but busy with guests, so he should just find out what she wants and tell her it's a bad time, even though she actually knows exactly who those visitors are. Elizabeth asks if they know the merchant Lara Khalidia, and the girls immediately recognize the name. Elizabeth gets her husband to bring her to the spot, and once they arrive, Sifa says something that totally catches her off guard. She tells her all about saving her dad's forge, says thanks, and uses Laruka as a middleman to order some epic mithril weapons. Elizabeth was blown away that her dad actually pulled this off. It was a simple deal to get it by the next day, and the quality was honestly top tier. She's hyped about getting mithril weapons for so cheap, but Sifa is suspicious about where all that metal came from, and thinks Laruka totally planted it. Yurka walks in and greets everyone, saying it looks like the whole crew is already there. They were just talking about Elizabeth's new mithril weapon, but she had no idea it was actually made by the Sefa family. She says she gave the mithril away for free and didn't get a dime, but Laruka tells her not to sweat it. She signals for everyone to be quiet, and they all realize that even legendary mithril might be growing in this garden. Elizabeth asks what she's doing there, and the saleswoman says she heard Elizabeth invited the whole squad. Elizabeth asks what prizes they're picking, but since nobody's decided yet, Laruka asks if they want to hear her plan. The master is stressing over the lies Laruka is feeding everyone, while Marlin is just done and wants to go home. The girls give Ruka the green light, and since the choice is already made, they all head straight for Elizabeth. She's totally shocked by their offer, and meanwhile, a massive feast is being whipped up back at our hero's house. While handing over the milk, he starts wondering what kind of crazy food they eat at the castle. picturing a massive feast that a regular kid like him has never even seen before. He's losing his mind over how good the normal food tastes, and still can't believe he actually got an invite to the royal castle. Hitting B rank that young is a massive flex, but while Sifa is totally drifting away from him, Saini hit the jackpot with a personal invite from the ruler himself. Now he's hitting the garden to send the crops to Lucas and the next batch to Laruka, but he's completely out of room to plant anything else. He's just walking through the garden when he suddenly hears his sister say she's already back home, and it totally catches him off guard. He hears Laruka and Eni approaching and quickly tells Milka to hide in the garden to keep his secret safe. Sifa says sorry for crashing the party, which totally shocks him, and the boy asks why they're even there since he thought they were invited to the castle. The girls break the news, and our guy is totally shocked that the ruler actually gave them their own piece of land. So for his reward, he gets this totally empty plot of land, and when he asks what the deal is, the girls tell him it's all his. They want him to use it to grow the garden, leaving him totally stunned, but Larika admits it was her idea, and everyone else is down with it. The girls give all the credit to Gio because he totally saved Sifa's dad's shop and Annie's sister's restaurant, and now they're dying to thank him. The guy gets all awkward and says he barely helped, giving them all the credit for the heavy lifting. Annie says his garden's wins should stay a secret, but he totally deserves this award and all the hype. His sister says his garden is a total mystery, but it's still absolutely epic. He thanks the girls and tells them that getting this gift makes him the happiest guy alive. Sifa asks if he'll actually use the gift, and he totally agrees since the garden grows every time he levels up, making a bigger plot way more useful, and then he spots the milk. Every girl there is totally staring at him, and the guy who told him to hide is completely shocked that he just showed up out of nowhere. They're totally shocked it's a snow leopard and start wondering what a monster like that is even doing in a place like this. The guy tells them to hold up, saying that's actually his pet's milk. He hugs the milk and swears it's totally safe, making it obvious to everyone that he's completely obsessed with it. Senna thought that cat was way too massive to be real, so they all asked him where he even found it. Then he drops a total bombshell. He can grow monster eggs right in his own garden. Someone asked if he could really level up this power, but Gio is about to start breeding a massive monster army, and even though he's a good guy, he's gotta make sure nobody ever. The song says this land is crawling with monsters since it's totally empty, so they've got a long walk ahead. But they got lucky that the Lord was super chill and gave them all this massive free space. Our hero is looking at the land his friends gave him and wondering what the deal with it actually is. They finally made it, but their jaws dropped when they realized this creepy place was actually just a massive swamp. Elizabeth asks if they're looking for a massive empty spot outside the city, and if they're 100% sure that location works for them. They were the ones who set the rules, but they never expected things to get this messy. They know the place is still crawling with monsters, so there's no way anything is ever going to grow there. They kept her totally in the dark about the land's real purpose. She's got exactly what it takes for the job. Now they just have to see what Gio thinks, and if this soil. The system asks if he wants to mark the garden. He realizes this spot works too, and just like that, it's marked. Our hero calls it perfect, and the guy realizes everything happened in a total flash. The monsters haven't moved an inch. They were stressed for nothing. And now the land's original pioneers are. The garden is absolutely massive, and even though Gio just guessed the size and isn't sure it's enough, the girls are totally on board since he started with 100. He's totally clueless about how to use all this open space to start his farm. He knows this garden is only here because of everyone's hard work, and he's starting to really get it. He keeps nodding along, but the girls are totally confused because they have no clue who he's actually talking to. They see the monsters charging right at them looking totally furious. And since their home is trashed, they have no choice but to get out of there fast. Our guy tells the girls to chill and builds a massive robot that has the monsters shaking in their boots. The girls are totally freaked out and ask what's going on, since this garden is massive and definitely needs way more guards. They're gonna wipe out every monster in the garden like it's no big deal, leaving the girls totally stunned while Gio figures out his next move. He uses a wall generator to seal off the garden and hides it so well that nobody will ever find it. Now he can just warp between the gardens and tell the girls he'll be back in a flash. Eni thinks the whole thing is a total joke since it's just a regular garden, and she's told to stop overthinking it because she won't find any answers anyway. He ends up back home and realizes he was totally wrong, because this place is actually his secret way to travel between different gardens. The new area is way out there, but with this skill, getting there is a total breeze, so he's gonna pack some snacks, make the trip, and bring back that milk. He asks if he wants to tag along, so the kid clutches his milk and teleports straight through the gardens. The girls are totally shocked he just popped up, and while he feeds the animal milk and tells it it's safe to run around now, they notice he's gotten way taller since they last saw him. He can warp between gardens in a heartbeat, So he took a quick trip back home, and honestly, having a power this useful is basically a total cheat code. He notices the giants already finished off the monsters, so he decides it's snack time and grabs some meat for a BBQ. He gets the meat ready and calls the girls over, and they're totally blown away by the flavor, realizing that grilling outside is actually awesome. The girls look around and realize something's happening as the whole meadow suddenly starts bursting into bloom. The girls were totally blown away by the field of flowers and asked if he was the one who did it, so he told them it was just his way of saying thanks, which was honestly super sweet. Sifa thinks the whole thing is incredible, and she even sees the milk flowing through the flowers like it's having a blast. Our hero chases him down, yelling at him not to step on the flowers, but the guy just laughs, thinking about how everyone helped him get this massive new garden. To keep things simple, he just called them Garden 1 and Garden 2. Then he grabbed a bunch of flowers and gave them to Laruka. Our MC drops that line right before he gets super serious about farming in the second garden. He's got to figure out what to do with all those monster corpses the giants left behind. But since swamp monsters drop such trash loot, it'll actually cost him more money just to clean them up. Geo thinks he can just boss the golems around and send them away, but then the system pops up asking if he wants to absorb them instead. He thinks about what getting absorbed really means, says yes, and as soon as it happens, the main character is left wondering where all the bodies went. The system pings with a level up as brand new plants sprout, and he realizes this feels exactly like when he absorbs magic stones. He remembered hearing that monsters carry magic stones inside them, so his garden must have sensed the loot and straight up swallowed the hole in the creature's body. Geo realizes that if he keeps taking down monsters, he's just gonna keep leveling up. Our guy gets a wild idea, but as smoke starts puffing out, he realizes he definitely overdid it. He picked up this monster bait perfume from Marlin, but she's been looking totally out of it ever since she got back from the castle. Our guy decides to tear down one of the walls to kick things off, and just like that, it vanishes. The monster catches his scent and heads straight for him with a scary growl, totally shocking our hero, who immediately tells his golems to attack them. The giant crushed 2 bears with a single hit, and when the system asked to absorb them, he didn't hesitate to say yes. He's hyped to keep the fight going since a fresh wave of monsters is already closing in, proving his plan worked perfectly. Our MC starts by baiting the monsters right into the giant's path so they can handle the fight, and they totally do. Then the garden literally swallows their bodies whole, and just like that, the garden levels up automatically. He just has to make sure he swaps the scents at the right time, and even though he's hyped that his power is getting way more useful, and he's actually begging for more monsters to show up faster. A few days later, we're way out west, miles away from Arsal. Deep in a forest crawling with monsters, a small group decides to set up camp. They're all hyped because things went so smooth and want to go even deeper next time. But he shuts them down since he'd rather play it safe and see how things play out. He knows this place is super sketchy, but the mana is getting way thicker as they head deeper, and he's wondering what kind of insane monsters are hiding in there, Dao. Out of nowhere, all the monsters start bolting in the same direction. The guy thinks it's just an earthquake, but the girl hears a strange noise coming from the woods. They think the ground is shaking from an earthquake, but it's actually just someone sprinting full speed. Everyone starts running for their lives as a massive swarm of monsters charges right at them in a total invasion. They look up and see a massive swarm of monsters, so he tells his buddy to rush ahead and warn everyone before the whole army crashes into them. If they keep heading straight east, our souls are basically toast. Elizabeth stamps the seal and lets out a huge sigh of relief after finally finishing that massive pile of paperwork. The guy says it's all just business deals and land contracts, but Elizabeth knows it's really the ghost of Arsal's growth, and she'd way rather just go explore some dungeons. The guy tells her she's good to go once those papers are sealed, and hey, that report she wanted just showed up. She asks if he's talking about the swamp, and he confirms that according to the military, the whole place has turned into a total wasteland, leaving her completely shocked. They said all the plants and monsters were totally gone, and when they tried to get close, an invisible wall stopped them dead in their tracks. We don't know what's going on yet, but it looks like someone definitely put that there to block the way. She picked this spot as a reward since she didn't care if her crew got mad and just wanted to test them, and man, they finished way faster than she expected. She's convinced Laruka is just as clever as she is trustworthy, and she's sure Sifa and her squad wouldn't hurt a soul. They aren't jumping to any conclusions just yet, but they're definitely keeping a close watch while she gets back to her paperwork. A guy barges into the room screaming that a massive swarm of monsters is charging at the city from the west, leaving Elizabeth totally freaked out. Back in his garden, our MC is busy scarfing down another round of monsters, and asks if that's seriously all he gets for today. Turns out he wiped out every monster in the area and hit level 31 like it was nothing. Right after he beats level 30, a weird symbol pops up on the garden's border, And even though he's totally clueless, it's actually the sign for infinity. Once he unlocked new cultures, he started mastering the castle wall generator, which is basically a leveled-up version of the defensive wall tool. Now that he can build higher, the system asks if he wants to make actual castle walls. He says yes, and a massive wall shoots right up in front of him. Our guy is actually wondering if these massive walls are even bigger than the ones we build around our own souls. He clears them out of the garden since they're totally useless, declaring that the very first harvest is almost here. He hears a loud noise and wonders what's going on, but then he sees everyone freaking out and yelling that the west gate is super dangerous. Everyone's scrambling to find a place to hide, mostly at the church, and when a guy asks what's going on, they tell him a huge army of monsters is marching straight for the city. The soldiers are already locked and loaded. There are so many of them that the entire city border is in trouble. It's definitely time to bail on this place. Geo finally gets that things. He says they can warp to the second garden if things get too sketchy, so they head for the west gates while he climbs the Mega naked to see what's up. He scrambles onto the golem, freaks out at how high he is, and then spots something strange up ahead. He's totally blown away seeing over 1,000 monsters marching in this massive parade being broadcasted everywhere. The girl yells for everyone to man their posts and protect the city. But when the locals ask where the adventurers are, she has to tell them the guild is way too busy with research to help out. She thinks this disaster hit at the worst possible time since everyone was away. But they're not out of the fight yet because 200 soldiers are rocking custom armor and guns. The soldiers are totally hyped, looking super confident in their fresh armor and brand new weapons. The commander tells everyone to stay in formation as they move in, because even though there are tons of enemies, they're all attacking in small, scattered groups.
We've got to group up and hit them all at once to stop them in their tracks.
Suddenly, the humans and monsters start clashing in a massive battle while the girl watches, totally stressed for her warriors. She's sure they'll win because 2 warriors just dropped a monster, and after seeing how insanely sharp that sword is, she knows they could take out 10 more. The bear lunges at the warrior, but he blocks the hit with his shield, and when someone asks if he's hurt, he says his armor totally saved him. This mithril is the real deal and super strong, so forget your doubts while the mage squad starts charging up their fireballs. Fireballs are slamming into the monsters and wiping them out, and while the squad is sure they'll win, one knight warns that they're still gonna get pretty banged up. He asks if they've got any healing potions, and they tell him the ruler stocked up on a ton for emergencies that are actually just as good as mid-level ones. The monsters are back for another round, and this time there's way more of them. The commander shouts for the wounded to fall back while the soldiers in the back step up to hold the line for as long as they can. A guy rushes in carrying a wounded friend and begs the doctors for help, and while the warrior feels bad, the docs tell him he'll be okay, even though they're shocked he knows he's a goner because a mid-tier potion isn't gonna fix a wound this bad. He grabs a potion, drips it right onto the wound, and suddenly the kid's whole body starts to glow. The cut is closing up fast, and the doctor is totally blown away that this fighter is already back at 100%. He's hyped because he thinks he just got a high-level potion to jump back into the fight while the knights gear up to take down the monsters. The doctors stare at him in total shock, realizing that was definitely a middle-class potion. Marlin's totally grossed out by the massive crowd, but Dennis reminds her they're only here because the city is way too dangerous. The girl screams to her mom that she's in pain. Her mom tells her to hang in there, and Dennis rushes over to find out she just had a bad fall. He tells her not to cry because everything's going to be fine. Then he drips a little potion on the wound and the pain vanishes instantly. Dennis points right at Marlene and tells everyone she's the pharmacist who pulled it off, and they all start thanking her for the amazing job. Dennis was seriously not feeling the shelter vibe in that outfit. The girl tells everyone they've got all the food and water they need. She says there's no reason to panic at all. She's totally shocked to see Billy lugging a barrel, and after he asks if she's okay, she asks if Sifa, Sinha, and Annie are handling the adventurers, finally letting out a huge sigh when he says yes. Since she hasn't seen Geo anywhere, the man figures the kid can't just stay home and probably has nowhere else to hide. She asks if the city's gonna be okay, and he just hopes all that gear and those weapons actually help the soldiers, because right now, all they can do is pray. Elizabeth knows their mithril armor and potions are the only reason they're still standing, but they can still only handle a fifth of the enemy army. She's worried the defenses will snap if they all rush at once, and to make things worse, some elite monsters just showed up. Now we're gonna see if this soldier can actually survive against a battle lion, a bloody elephant, and a deadly scorpion, because these A-rank monsters are no joke. The girl is totally shocked because that lion is charging straight for the soldiers, and they don't even see it coming. They spot him and try to cut him off, but he charges in and completely trashes their gear.
Out of nowhere, Elizabeth jumps in and drops the lion with one hit to save her squad.
The guys freak out and yell for the ruler to watch out because this monster is on a whole different level. The fighter tells her to get out of there. It's a total death trap on the front lines, but she knows exactly what she's getting into. She's done playing it safe, and out of nowhere, a bloody elephant charges the gates, and the girl realizes it's trying to smash them wide open. He just bent the gates and everyone is freaking out because he broke through, but he's way too massive for them to push back. She realizes that if this keeps up, her whole city is going to be crawling with monsters in no time. Our hero realizes things are falling apart fast, and even though the soldiers were winning at first, the monsters are about to smash through, so they've got to get out of there right now. Gio wonders if he can really just stand there and watch his hometown get completely wiped out. An army this big could easily just smash right through the shelters. Our hero says he's got one last trick up his sleeve and asks Milka if he's ready to back him up. He zips through the path to the second garden and then just bolts out of sight. He scales the wall like it's nothing, and then the system pops up asking if he wants to move the whole garden. He gives the nod and tells the wall to move, and it starts sliding right along with him. Santa whips around as she senses something is totally off, and you can see the pure worry in her eyes. Sifa asks what's up, but she says it was just a weird bump, even though the other girl isn't totally buying it. She pushed them to go even deeper today, and the girls finally agreed, even though they were totally craving Gio's legendary cooking back home. Ruins are everywhere and someone yells that things are moving way too fast, but the system says this is the limit, so the stranger tells her to shut up and sprint even though she's already. Gio screamed at Milka to hang on for dear life as they blasted forward, and then he looked up to see what was coming next. He spotted smoke up ahead and saw a massive army marching through the western gates, and while he definitely didn't want them finding his garden, he had way bigger things to worry about right now. He switched off the garden's cloaking system and told it to only hide his body. The system pinged that the garden was visible, but a weird part of it stayed hidden. He hoped this would be enough, even though he wasn't totally sure, and after Milk meowed her approval, he told everyone it was time to move out. This massive elephant monster with huge ears and a long trunk is smashing right through the western gate. The soldiers are geared up and ready for battle, knowing they're in huge trouble as the gates are about to snap. Past those gates, it was a total war zone between the humans and the beasts. Soldiers were screaming that they couldn't get their squads back together. But there was no way they were. She went toe-to-toe with the scorpion, screaming about how much she hated these freaky monsters. She realizes they're still coming for them. She knows they can't stop them anymore, and she stares at the gates that are basically about to snap. Out of nowhere, a scout spots something far off, and when the girl sees his face, she asks what's up, totally thinking it's a pack of monsters. He yells at the top of his lungs that it's a wall. The thing is actually heading straight for them. It's closing the distance way faster than anyone expected. Everyone's losing. She's totally clueless about how this wall is even moving, and she has no idea if it's trying to crush them or if it's actually on their side. Out of nowhere, a voice screams from behind the wall, telling them to run.
Everyone loses their minds when the wall actually starts talking.
She realized he was actually on their side and shouted for everyone to back off. The soldiers took the hint and bolted in the opposite direction to get away from those monsters. Gio's relieved they got the signal, so now he just has to wreck every single one of these monsters. We had to rush to the gates and block the path with a wall before they broke through, so he ordered everyone to move at max speed. The wall slammed into the monsters at crazy speeds, and the hero was about to plow right through them like a human wrecking ball. The animals started screaming and snarling as they freaked out and bolted in every direction. Suddenly, the wall slammed to a halt just a few feet from the west gates. Our hero had clearly given it everything he had. The girl and the knights just stood there, watching the whole thing. This massive farm came to a dead stop right at the edge of the city. She realized she'd stopped dead in her tracks, and everyone watching was totally confused about what just happened. The scout screams that half the monsters are totally wiped out, and now there are huge piles of bodies everywhere. The soldiers started cheering like crazy. Everyone finally realizes they just pulled off the impossible and survived against nearly 1,000 crazy strong monsters. She realized this was a total miracle, but suddenly, that wall felt way taller than it was before. Geosize is hiding behind the wall and managed to hold them off, but he's got zero clue what's actually going down on the other side. The wall started shrinking right in front of her, but before she could even process what was going on, one of the monsters started getting up and she spotted that too. The massive elephant skidded to a stop and let out a huge blast, making the guy realize that one of them had actually survived. He saw that this monster just wouldn't stay down, even though the western gate was totally blocked by a wall. That elephant started heading straight for the wall, and both the knight and Gio saw it coming. He just snaps his fingers and lets the giant elephant right in. The monster walks right through the wall, leaving the girl and the knights totally shocked. This massive elephant just randomly showed up in our hero's garden, and it had absolutely no clue what was going on. Our MC wasn't letting him handle it, so he just told his mega golems to take that monster down for good. They started wailing on him, and Milk shouted that the threat was finally taken care of. Diju decided to bait the rest of those monsters into the garden and give them the exact same treatment. The giants are still throwing down with those monsters. One strike slammed a lion, the next squashed some bug, and the third one leveled a bull. The girl and the knights stood there frozen, watching the chaos unfold as the sounds of battle filled the air. The girl realized every monster coming through the walls was already dead, and just then, the scout screamed that a massive golem had wiped them all out, leaving everyone totally clueless about what was happening. Geo says they cleared out most of the pack, and even though some super tough monsters showed up, the golems totally crushed them just like we expected. He's super relieved things actually worked out and thinks he's finally in the clear. Suddenly, Milk snaps to attention and starts hissing at the horizon, and just as the boy asks what's up, a massive shadow appears in the distance. Out of nowhere, this massive monster just spawns in, and our hero has zero clue who this guy is supposed to be.
The knights scream that this is Atlas, a monster way more powerful than your basic Cyclops.
He marched in from the west with a horde of monsters, looking absolutely massive even from a distance, and the girl realized these beasts were strong enough to crush anyone and level entire cities. Everyone realized this monster was the reason for the march. Geo was literally shaking as he said things were looking really bad. And since he had no clue how to handle a beast that big, suddenly, the monster started ripping his wall to pieces, throwing huge chunks around and screaming like a total psycho. Then he just phased right through the wall and stepped inside. Our hero tried to send those massive golems charging straight into the fight. The monster spots them and snatches one by the head, using a hand so massive it completely covers the golem's face. He grabbed the beast and crushed its skull, but he knew right then that he wasn't strong enough to handle a monster like this. Right then, the Cyclops finally spotted the kid. He starts closing in, and as the boy spots him, Geo realizes he can totally escape by using his power to jump between gardens. If he pulls this move, the whole city is toast, but forget the buildings. Staying alive is the only thing that matters right now. He was totally helpless against her, but then a system alert popped up asking if he wanted to absorb monsters. He almost ignored it because the timing was terrible, but then he had a huge realization. He looked over at the huge mountain of bodies piled up right next to him. That massive Cyclops just kept stomping closer and closer. Our guy decided it was time to try something crazy. If his plan failed, he was totally ready to just bolt. Right then, the monsters started getting sucked up, and the giant beast had no idea what was even happening. The garden just leveled up, and now there are a ton of cool new plants to grow. The system pinged to show he finally mastered the Giga Guardian, an epic upgrade from his Mega Guardian, and he was totally hyped. His gamble worked, but it's all for nothing if he can't take down this massive beast. So when the system suggests the Giga Guard, he tells her to go for it. The Earth started taking shape right in front of him, and the Cyclops was left looking totally confused. She spotted another massive figure standing right next to the monster, and even though she was totally confused, she figured it had to be a golem. The guy was absolutely massive, looking just like the giant Atlas. The Keeper and Atlas locked eyes, staring each other down.
Geo screams to his golem that they've got this, ordering him to totally flatten that Cyclops.
Geo is perched right on the shoulder of his golem Higgy as he brawls with a giant Cyclops named Atlas, and they're both hitting just as hard. The girl and the warrior look up and realize what they're seeing is absolutely insane. One of the fighters was sure their city arsehole was toast, but then this massive golem popped up out of nowhere and blocked the bad guy just in time, proving he's actually one of the good guys. With a super serious look, she told them there was no way they could stop that massive beast from smashing into the city. The warriors gripped their weapons tight, ready to jump into the fight at any second. A guy starts praying with everything he's got, just hoping the golem can take down Atlas and save their home. Atlas and Golem locked hands while the Cyclops screamed at him, and Gig the guard pulled with so much strength that he literally dented the ground. Geo's perched on the guard's shoulder yelling that he's got this, and with a flash in its eyes the golem charges straight into the fight. He whips his head around and slams Atlas right in the skull with everything he's got. He winced and grabbed the spot where he got hit, trying to make the stinging stop. The guard didn't give him a single second to breathe, raining down non-stop blows that the monster just couldn't block in time. The crowd is going wild for the giant, totally sure he's got this, and Geo's right there hyping them up for the win. But then he stops dead because he spots something crazy. Atlas looked absolutely fuming as he geared up to throw a massive hit. Just like that, he blasts the guard with a kick so fast nobody saw it coming, and the impact totally wrecks the whole place. Geo and the knights were totally stunned, just standing there with their jaws on the floor. The giant slammed into the dirt, and Atlas dove straight down to crush him. The guard tried to act tough, but the monster just smirked and started throwing massive punches at the golem. Geo was totally freaking out about the giant and kept shouting his name over and over. Atlas landed some massive hits on the guardian, and the damage was so crazy that his gear started falling apart. The knights were totally lost watching this, but then the Cyclops landed a massive hit and knocked the guard out cold. Atlas knew he had this won, so he let out a massive victory roar as one of the knights collapsed to his knees. He says even a golem can't stop him, so it's officially game over for them. The girl kept her eyes glued to the battle and warned everyone that this fight was far from over.
Out of nowhere, someone sneaks up behind Atlas and slams him right in the back of the head.
He got sent flying way back and let out a massive shout. Everyone was totally confused, but as the Cyclops looked up at the brave guy who just hit him, its massive eye went wide with pure shock. Right in front of him stood a Giga Guard that didn't have a single scratch on it. Everyone's jaws dropped when a brand new golem showed up with Geo sitting right on its shoulders. He just smirked and told them he could make as many as he wanted.
Suddenly, he just spawns 2 more massive Giga Golems.
Atlas started looking around in a total panic as these massive giants completely cornered him. Geo pointed right at Atlas and ordered them to snag that monster, sending both giants charging ahead to do exactly what he said. Before he even knew it, the Cyclops was dragged into a fight, and he was totally trapped with no way out.
The other 2 golems started wailing on him right in the gut.
The monster let out a massive roar, and everyone just stood there with their jaws on the floor. The giants kept wailing on the monster's face and stomach, and with every hit, the people started to believe they'd actually be saved. But Geo just stood there looking totally serious. A crazy life-or-death fight was going down right outside the city. Atlas hit the ground totally spent, and he started shaking as those massive giants towered over him. A second later, he crashed face first into the dirt, and even though Geo and his golems won, they weren't cheering just yet. It was Milk, and he just stared at it like he couldn't believe his eyes. The knights were dead silent as one giant stepped up to check out the monster, poking it right in the face, but the thing didn't even flinch. The knights were cheering their heads off because they finally won and saved their city from total destruction. The whole squad went wild celebrating after they finally took down the massive Cyclops Atlas.
They actually pulled it off. Atlas is finally down and everyone is safe.
A knight tells the queen the whole parade was stopped and Atlas is dead, but she just stands there with a creepy smile.
Turns out that wall and those golems were actually guarding our souls the whole time.
She figured they were on her side, but she had no clue why they were helping, especially since golems are usually just built to guard treasure, and it would take a crazy amount of mana to create something this strong.
Out of nowhere, the wall starts moving again and slides right away from the city.
The knights saw what happened and panicked, asking if they should chase her, while the princess shut her eyes tight against the massive cloud of dust. The second everyone opened their eyes, they realized the wall was just totally gone. She vanished along with the golems and the Atlas, but she'll deal with that later since they need to check the damage first. While the knights rushed to check the damage, the princess just stared at the wall, realizing the way it appeared and vanished felt exactly like someone she knew. She quickly brushed those thoughts aside because there was just no way that was happening.
The system just pinged to say that traffic mode is finally switched off.
The hero finally hopped down from the gallows, but the second his feet hit the dirt, he collapsed to his knees and let out a massive sigh of pure exhaustion. He's totally losing it over this insane monster showing up, but he's lucky his skills just summoned a massive Giga Golem to back him up. Milk rushed up and started licking the hero, and the guy just smiled and thanked him for the pep talk. He was totally sure his garden would help him handle everything, but now he's finally seeing. He stumbled to his feet and told everyone they should probably head home and just crash. The next morning, the whole town was buzzing with rumors. Some people were just hyped that the evacuation was called off. Others were totally shocked that the city was actually safe. In the end, the kid asks his mom if they're finally safe now, and since the soldiers totally wiped out every last monster, she tells him it's all over, making our hero smile as he realizes. Our hero walks into the cafe and says what's up to Alicia. She lunged at him for a massive hug, crying about how worried she was, but our main guy was actually super annoyed by it. She asked why he skipped church, so he apologized and told her he was actually at a different shelter. He tried to change the subject fast by showing off the ingredients he brought. And even though Alicia said he didn't need to after everything that just happened, he just shrugged it off since he's used to doing it every single morning. He grabbed a bunch of fresh eggs today, and the girl told him his garden is literally full of surprises. Alicia offered to treat the guy to breakfast since they still had some time to kill before the opening. He tried to say no, but she cut him off and told him it was no big deal since he's always helping her out, so he finally gave in and accepted her offer. A bit later, she walks up to him with the train in her hands and thanks him for sticking around. Then she served them up a plate of her legendary pancakes. The guy caught a whiff of the amazing food, thanked the girl, and immediately started digging in. He slices into the pancake, realizes it's insanely fluffy, and goes straight in for a bite. He takes a bite and it's pure bliss, with those super soft, juicy eggs just melting in his mouth. He starts digging into the bacon. Those fluffy pancakes mixed with the crunchy bacon and eggs are a total win. It's that perfect mix of sweet and salty. Honestly, the whole thing just tastes. He tells Alicia the food is straight up delicious, and while she's blushing and giving all the credit to his garden, he insists it's actually her insane cooking skills. He grinned and told her the food was so good he'd eat it every single morning, making her blush like crazy because she thought he was basically proposing. But he instantly backed off, saying he was totally just kidding around. He starts sipping his hot drink with his pancakes, but his mind is totally stuck on everything that happened yesterday. After that absolute nightmare of a day yesterday, this warm, sweet food is hitting the spot. Sifa and Senna burst into the tavern to announce they're back, while Sifa apologizes for the chaos, and the sister finally says hey to her brother. Gio asks if they just got back from the dungeon, and since they're totally starving and came straight here, Alicia rushes over to give the girl a massive hug. She flashes a big smile and says they must be starving, so she's gonna whip something up right now, leaving Annie totally confused about what's gotten into her. Saifon realized the city looked totally different and figured something must have shown up while they were gone. Gio told her she was right and started explaining everything that went down yesterday, leaving them all staring in total shock. Annie bolted out of her chair the second she heard 1,000 monsters were on the move, while Senna checked to make sure Gio was actually doing okay. Annie was totally blown away by the chaos, and it's a huge relief the city survived since Siphon said they were almost toast, but Alicia gave major props to the brave soldiers who used. While she's busy cooking, Alicia mentions that there are some wild rumors about the crazy stuff that went down back then. Word is a massive wall popped up out of nowhere and wiped out a whole pack of monsters. Then these weird giants showed up to scrap with the leader, making Gio literally choke on his tea. He knows this is all on him. The story is blowing up everywhere, and he definitely let things get way out of hand. Everyone started claiming the gods sent the wall and the golems, but Saifon and Annie weren't buying it because the whole thing just sounded way too crazy to be real. She looked at Gio and told him his garden was a total bust for this, and he just looked away and admitted she was right. As Alicia brought the heroes their food, she admitted she wasn't so sure about everything, but she was way more scared they'd never get their old lives back, or that the restaurant would be totally destroyed. That's why she's so stoked to finally have her chill life back, just like how things used to. If someone actually saved her city, she's definitely going to give them a massive thank you. Senna takes a bite of the food Alicia brought and says that with some help, she could totally keep eating this amazing stuff forever. He totally had to agree with her. She was just hyped that the awesome scent hadn't disappeared. Sifa was right there with them too. Then the girls asked the heroes what they thought about. Right then, he seriously thought about making a run for it. He shoved another bite of pancake in his mouth, flashed a grin, and told the girls they were 100% right. Watching everyone in the village smile and help each other out, our hero finally knew he'd made the right call. The squad thanked Alicia for the food, and she told them it was time to hit the guild. But right as Gio tried to walk away, someone snatched him. It was Annie, and she told them they had to talk things over before they got started. They headed to the boys' garden to see the Atlas, and the girls were totally blown away by how massive this monster actually was. Sifa points out that Atlas is leading the way. Annie's convinced the hero is part of it, and Gio starts defending the soldiers because their job is way harder than it looks. He starts telling them how he hit the city past the garden, crushed the enemy army with a wall, and then built a massive golem to take down the big boss. Our hero just scratched his head and played it off, acting like he barely helped in the garden to keep a low profile. The girls were totally blown away that all those wild rumors were actually real. So Senna asked her brother if he'd been laying low in the shelter. But Saifa warned her that even Senna finally realized that Gio was the one who saved the entire city. She asked what to do with the massive monster in the garden, and Gio said he could just swallow it, but then they'd lose all that valuable loot. Cypher wants to sell those Atlas parts for a massive payday, but Senna shuts him down because selling them would basically prove they were the ones who took him out. Gio thinks it through and decides to hit up Lyrica, knowing that if he uses a magic stone to buff the garden, he'll score a massive level up. Annie crossed her arms and let out a huge sigh, saying that life is just getting way too crazy to predict. Our guy thought growing immortality fruit or getting flight powers was just a crazy dream, but he was super hyped to see what this garden would actually do next. Laruka's jaw dropped when she saw a massive Atlas monster right in Gio's garden, and she immediately asked him what the heck was going on. He tells her there was a huge parade right here yesterday. She starts asking him for more details. He's totally shocked she hasn't heard about it. But she just says The hero starts bragging about sneaking through the garden into the city, slamming the whole army against a wall, and summoning a giant pillar to crush the boss. But the girl just calls him out for talking. He started thinking about Atlas, whose massive bones, skin, and teeth were basically the ultimate loot. She was super hyped and told him she'd buy it right then and there, which totally caught Gio off guard as he asked if she was actually for real. She promised she was serious and even offered, but there's one big catch. He's not allowed to look no matter what because things are about to get super gross, and the hero is totally down with that. Liruka said she'd be done in an hour, so Gio thanked her and vanished right on cue to head back home for a bit. The girl let out a huge breath in total shock because she couldn't believe our guy just took down Atlas, a literal A+ rank monster. It's crazy to think this power-up is actually this broken. If the wrong person grabs it, the whole city is done for, and the rest of the world is in big trouble. Luckily Gio was the one who caught him, and since she thinks he's just a chill guy, they have to watch him like a hawk so nobody finds out his secret. She slammed her massive bag onto the floor and started digging through it. She finally pulled out a package. It was time to get to work. Suddenly the milk lets out a meow, and Gio, who was busy in the garden, realizes a whole hour has already flown by thanks to his friend's signal. There's no way anyone could take down a monster that massive so fast, so she's probably still busy with it. And when the guy gets back to the garden, he asks. Luckily, Atlas was completely empty because the girl had stuffed everything into a magic bag, and the boy was totally blown away. He's totally stumped because even though the blood is gone, he has no clue how she pulled it off. Larika then hands the guy the payment for all the materials. She made sure to. She pulls out a massive magic stone, and when the hero asks if she's really okay with not selling it to him, she tells him she's 100% sure. Gio thanks her, and since she's down to help with whatever he needs, he wastes zero time asking her to help him fix up the garden. He absorbs the magic stone and instantly jumps 6 levels from 37 to 43, unlocking remote cultivation, a storage skill, and a bunch of new plants. He's got remote cultivation, so he can plant whatever he wants without even stepping foot in the garden. Storage is a total game changer for hauling tons of gear, and since it might keep everything fresh, he's definitely giving it a shot. New skills are always a huge win, but these felt so much like his old ones that he realized everything about this place was starting to feel way too familiar. Our hero decides to check out the plants. Suddenly, a massive list pops up right in front of him. There are so many options now that it's honestly hard to keep track. Suddenly he spots a medium-sized monster egg just sitting right there. He remembers Milka came from a tiny egg, so a medium one has to be massive, and even though he's not sure he can handle growing it, he's just too curious to. The garden was totally chill, but our guy was just standing there staring at a system pop-up for a medium monster egg, trying to figure out his next move. The system told him to hatch a medium monster egg, and he was totally down for it. Suddenly, a massive face pops up right in the middle of the garden. Our guy was shocked by how massive the egg was, and right then, Milka walked up to him. He started pacing around the egg, and our MC could tell the little guy was super happy. It was like he already saw the creature as his own little sibling. Milk started nuzzling the egg with. The kid just smirked and said he'd leave it all to him, while our hero was dying to see what kind of crazy monster would show up next. With the milk and egg sitting right there, the boy started checking out 2 super weird plants, the ghost flower and the cursed grass. The girl said hey to Gio and hoped that crazy evacuation didn't mess him up, but he was just relieved that everyone ended up being totally fine. She remembered everyone's buzzing about that mystery wall and the golems smashing monsters, but the hero got super awkward and quickly changed the subject to ask her to check out what he brought. He's got 2 new plants he just grew, and when the girl asks what they are, he's already wondering if he can use them as ingredients for a meal. She started checking them out. It looked like she totally recognized them from her guidebook. Those huge, gorgeous leaves and shiny skin were practically glowing. Just looking at them made it feel like they were. The pattern on these leaves is straight up terrifying. She asked about the plants, so he told her the ugly one was cursed grass, and the pretty one was a phantom flower, which totally shocked her right as someone suddenly dropped something. A woman stands in the doorway and drops a box of test tubes in total shock, asking the guy if he seriously brought home something insane again. Marlon walked up to the flowers on the table, feeling like he might have just made a huge mistake. She asked how much he wanted for it, but Gio was just curious about what it did and gave it to her for free, leaving Dennis totally shocked that he'd just hand over such a rare plant. Marlon grabbed the flowers and headed back to her place, leaving Denise in charge of everything. Dennis agreed to let Marlene take charge, and as she walked off, the hero Nikolai admitted he'd never seen her so serious, though she just told him it was bound to happen. She grabbed a massive book and started flipping through it like crazy, looking for any info on the ghost flower. She finally found the info and read that the phantom flower is a super rare plant used for an elixir, so the guy, who'd never heard of it, asked what kind of potion it actually makes. Dennis says it's an elixir, a mysterious potion that can cure literally any sickness you've got. This potion is a total game changer because it cures deadly stuff other potions can't touch, like mental struggles and even diseases you're born with. The guy asks if it's actually good and she says yes, but the catch is you can't buy this plant anywhere, and they say if you eat enough of it, you'll literally become immortal. Our hero was totally crushed by the news about immortality, thinking back to when Annie promised to grow him a fruit that would let him live forever. But then Dennis dropped the truth that she never. These phantom flowers only pop up in super holy places once every few years, so our hero finally realizes these elixirs are worth a total fortune. She's totally shocked he found such a legendary herb, but he just says it's a secret, which is super weird since that cursed plant isn't even mentioned in the book. The guy says Marlon is trying to cook up a secret elixir, and while Denise confirms it's true, she's worried it'll be almost impossible to make. She's totally sure Marlene has the skills to whip up this elixir. She slammed a stack of books on the table and admitted she never thought she'd actually go after this. But now she's swearing on her honor as a pharmacist to turn that phantom flower into the perfect elixir. Gio was busy farming his crops and moved his rarest plants to a second garden, which turned out to be the smartest move ever. With nobody watching, he's free to look after the monster egg while Milk keeps huddling close to keep it warm. I'm planting some super rare stuff here, like magari grass, shiyu, and a whole bunch of other awesome medium-tier grasses. He finally realizes he's got to stop growing those creepy ghost flowers and cursed grass. He remembers Dennis saying they only show up once every few years, but our hero already has a massive pile of them. Fast forward a few days, and Gio's itching to see how Marlon's doing with that elixir, so he heads back home where Senna is waiting for him. She told him straight up that she was heading out to find some epic adventures. A guy asks if she's got all the potions, but she tells him not to worry since she already hit up Marlene's place yesterday. The hero asks if she actually saw her, but Santa was just about to grab the door handle when someone suddenly appeared right in the entrance. It was Dennis, and she turned bright red as she apologized to Gio and Senna for showing up in the middle of the day. Senna noticed the girl was wearing something totally different today, and asked why she wasn't in her maid outfit. But the girl was just too shy to wear it out in the city, even though her siblings kept telling her she looked awesome. Gio told her she looked amazing in that outfit. Then Senna said her goodbyes and headed out for a new adventure. Our main guy invited Denise in for some tea, and while relaxing on the couch, he asked if Marlene was still busy working, which Denise said she was. Now she's working late every single night and seeing Marlene totally in the zone for the first time ever. Gio's wondering why she's working so hard on this elixir, but if she nails the recipe, it'll be way more powerful than any normal potion. The guy says Marlene is super weird but still an amazing pharmacist, and Denny totally agrees she's a total oddball. She's super worried her friend's health is getting worse, so she tries to help out in the kitchen even though she has zero clue how to cook. She's there to see how he can help, and Gio feels totally responsible since he's the one who brought that creepy ghost flower in the first place. This guy knows even less about this stuff than Dennis. He was totally stuck and couldn't do a single thing. But then a wild idea suddenly hit him. He grabbed some fresh fruit from his garden and decided to whip up a quick late-night snack for her. Denny asked where he scored all that food, and the guy told him he grew it all in his garden, while Denny noticed the fruit smelled amazing and looked super fresh. Gio saw how much energy a good meal gives people, so he's sure Marlene will love it if he cooks for her tonight. When Dennis asked about the bag on the table, Gio just told him he grew a ton of wheat and then ground it all down into flour. Dennis poked at the white powder and realized he could make something awesome with it, so he asked Gio to use the kitchen, and Gio was totally down to help him cook while they hung out and talked. While peeling an apple, the MC tells Denis he's a great guy, and Denis doesn't deny it even though Marlene treats him like trash, and he's still trying to figure out exactly what he owes her. He says his parents ditched him as a kid, so he grew up in a struggling orphanage where he had to learn everything on his own, and even though he tried to find a job to help them out, he just couldn't catch a break. Right then, Marlene shows up looking for an assistant and tells him he'd look straight up amazing in a maid outfit. He totally hated the outfit, but the pay was way too good to pass up, and Gio could tell he was really struggling to deal with it. Marlene takes her potion making super seriously, and since her brews have saved so many lives, he has massive respect for her. Gio just smirked and said that telling Marlene would make her feel like she's in heaven, so he's keeping it a secret forever. It's already late at night, but Marlene is still grinding away in his lab to finish that potion. She swirls the elixir flask and puts her doctor skills to work, but it's another total fail. Marlene chucks another failed potion aside and slumps against her desk, knowing her recipe is perfect, but thinking she needs to tweak the heat since she's so close to the finish line and totally exhausted. Dennis walked into the lab rocking a full maid outfit and asked Marlene if she was seriously stuck working late again. She says yes, so Denis tells her not to push herself too hard, leaves a snack by the door for her to eat later, and then heads out. Marlene stays frozen in that exact same spot, but then a really nice smell suddenly hits her. She caught a whiff of something amazing and spotted the apple pie Gio and Dennis had just baked. She was totally hyped when she saw it and couldn't believe Dennis actually baked it just for her. Dennis made this masterpiece just for her. There's no way this is actually happening. She wants to keep it forever like a family treasure. But right then, her stomach totally betrays. She realized she'd been working so hard she totally forgot to eat, so she grabbed a slice of that pie and took a big bite. She was totally blown away by how sweet and fresh that pie tasted, since she never expected it to be this good. The fruit was perfectly sweet and the crust smelled so good she just couldn't stop eating. She took one bite, realized it was amazing, and immediately started scarfing down piece after piece. That apple pie didn't just fill her up. It totally cured her exhaustion and gave her a huge burst of energy, and she'd never tasted anything that amazing in her entire life. She wolfed down every last bite, balled up her fist, thanked Dennis, and said she was totally bursting with power. She's got to keep grinding until she finally makes it big. Dennis is pacing around looking totally lost in a maid outfit when someone suddenly walks into the pharmacy and says hello. Gio showed up asking about Marlene because he was super worried, but Dennis told him she'd have that potion finished any minute now. The hero asked if he was for real, and he said she loved the pie and the work was perfect, but suddenly the lab doors burst open. Marlene finally stumbled out of there looking totally wiped and gasping for air, so Gio and Dennis immediately freaked out and started grilling her with questions. She looked up and told them she made the elixir using that ghost flower, and as the guys started hyping her up, she thanked them and said she couldn't have pulled it off without their help. Gio and Dennis were stoked that she finally finished the ultimate cure-all, but Marlene stepped in and showed off the actual love potion. The guys were totally blown away. Gio spills the secret that she actually made a love potion instead of Carol's elixir, and as Marlene is so hyped she hugs the jar, saying she's wanted this forever. The guys were totally shocked she actually used that cursed herb. She told them it's a legendary plant that's basically impossible to find. Her jaw literally dropped when the MC actually showed up with. Dennis was totally shocked she put so much work into that potion, while Gio started asking all about the elixir. Marlene pulls out another bottle and tells them she whipped it up during the break. Gio and Dennis are totally shocked she made such a crazy strong potion that fast. They couldn't believe this. She confirmed it was the real deal, and since she couldn't just put it on a shelf, our MC offered to sell it to her himself. She tells him that in the capital, these elixirs sell for a massive 50 million gold, and have even started entire wars, since something this powerful is used for way more than just saving lives. Even so, once she saw the ingredients, she just had to make it. And now that Gio has it, he's totally blown away. Gio was busy checking out that legendary miracle cure while Dennis was totally losing it on Marlene for keeping him in the dark. But she just ignored his yelling and thanked him for the pie she used to cook up a love potion. It took her forever to get the mix just right, but it ended up being super powerful, and now the kid is shaking as he asks what she's actually going to do with that potion. She said she's going to give Denis the potion so they can finally have some real fun. The kid bolted while screaming that he'd never touch that potion, and as Marlene chased after him, Gio had already slipped out of the shop with the magic drink. He figured one mistake was plenty, but he messed up again since he had no clue those elixirs were worth a fortune, so he just looked at him and let out a sigh. As he walked down the street, he figured he'd probably never even have to use that elixir. Meanwhile, deep in the ruins dungeon, the girls were frantically running away from someone. Annie screamed for the girls to run for cover because things were getting way too dangerous, and right then, the archers started letting their arrows fly. An arrow clips Annie and Safi starts panicking, but Annie just shrugs it off, saying it's a tiny scratch that a basic potion will fix in no time. Cindy screams that someone's up ahead, and suddenly 3 guys step out from behind a wall, realizing their cover is totally blown. A whole crowd of sketchy dudes cornered the girls, and they definitely looked like a bunch of robbers. Senny asked why the monsters were talking, and Annie dropped the truth. They're actually people, but they definitely don't look like your average adventurers. Safi says she has no clue who these guys are, but it's super obvious they're coming straight for them. Milk was running around meowing like crazy, so Gio asked him what was wrong to figure out why he was so freaked out. That milk actually led our guy straight to the egg. Suddenly, a crack snapped right across the egg. Our hero realized the monster was finally about to hatch. A tiny squeaking sound started coming from the inside. The boy shouted that he could. Milk just wouldn't stop meowing, sounding totally freaked out. He realized the milk was acting just like he did when he first hatched, So he told his buddy everything was gonna be fine, and promised to keep him hyped while he cracked the shell open. Suddenly, the egg cracks wide open and a beak pokes out, making our guy think he's looking at some kind of bird monster. The egg finally snaps open, but it's just a ball of wool inside, leaving our hero feeling totally let down. The second that milk touched the creature, it started shaking like crazy. It finally revealed itself as a total chicken, and our main guy was absolutely losing it with excitement. He thinks the little guy is super cute, looking just like a giant fluffy yellow chick as it waddles over and hops right onto his lap. He noticed the milk had grown a ton since it first hatched, but he figures it's probably best to just not think about that right now. The boy was stoked that the little guy hatched perfectly thanks to Milk's awesome care. So now all he had to do was pick a name while Milk meowed her approval. First they tried the name Chico, but Milk totally hated it. Then they tried Pipers, and she still wasn't having it. So since she turned down every single name our hero had, he thought of the name Pippi. Milk was totally down with it, and then the hero asked Pippi what she thought about it. The results were in and everything looked awesome. Senna turned back from the dungeon and asked about that yellow ball of wool, totally talking about Pippi. Gio says hi to his sister and explains it's not just a ball of fluff, but a tiny chick with an actual face. When she asks if it hatched from an egg, Gio confirms it's their newest family member and hopes they can all be best friends. The girl pulled Pippi in for a huge hug, calling him the cutest thing ever while he let out a super sweet squeak. Milk never lets her get this close, so she's totally soaking up every second of this. Things got super intense in the dungeon when 10 guys jumped them out of nowhere, and Parkett immediately started asking where the other girls were. She flashed a grin and told them they won, because even though there were a ton of enemies, they were all total weaklings, so now they just had to figure out who they were and why they were being hunted. Senna had no clue what the answer was, and just as they tried to catch up, a bunch of monsters blocked their path and let those total jerks get away. Our hero realizes this is just like the mess with Chasey, and if he's behind it, things are about to get really bad because these guys definitely have a secret plan. The guy started screaming at his crew, totally losing it because a bunch of tough bandits couldn't even handle a few girls. The guys actually apologized to the wolf since they couldn't beat it, and since their target was a B-rank adventurer, they knew taking her by force was going to be a total nightmare. Volka straight up asked them if they really thought his plan was a mistake. The bandit started making excuses for himself, but the guy in the tight coat just burst out laughing, covering his eyes and saying the whole thing was hilarious. The bandits finally realized this guy was just straight up fuming. This good-looking guy named Wolf told everyone it was time for a brand new plan that would actually be perfect, and all the bandits just bowed down and agreed. Once he became the leader of the Bard, the big boss ordered him to kidnap a girl named Safi, and while she's definitely pretty, it's clear the boss is just totally obsessed with her. The old boss Kazai basically vanished into thin air, and if Volka isn't careful, he's going to be next. He suddenly flashed a grin, knowing there was no way this was actually going to happen. He used his massive brain to climb straight to the top of the criminal world. He's way smarter than this guy could ever be. Honestly, it doesn't look like anyone is ever going to. One knight steps up to the wolf, begging for a second chance to fix their mess up in the dungeon and swearing it'll never happen again. He laughs and tells them he totally underestimated how weak they were, so they better learn their lesson while he lays out the perfect plan. This time, they're gonna slap a conquest bracelet right onto the target. Just put it on, and it'll be forced to follow every single order from whoever's wearing the matching control bracelet. This insane magic item came straight from the black market, and you only get one shot to use it. This thing was a totally custom build, and the guys were just standing there looking completely clueless. When they got asked about the made-to-order label again, he explained that since it's basically a cool decoration, it has to be totally flawless. The target might actually want to wear it themselves, and the bandits think that's absolutely crazy. The guys gave the green light and jumped into action immediately, while Volka kicked back in his chair, bragging that his master plan was literally flawless. By tonight, she's going to be totally at their mercy as the bandits start closing in on Sophia's house. Word is the target lives with her dad, so now they just gotta find her room. That night, a wolf and his crew of bandits stormed into Safi's place, and when she heard the noise, she sat up thinking it was just her dad. The bandit totally flinched and went into high alert the second that door swung open. The guys were freaking out thinking they'd been caught, so they tried to finish the job while everyone was still asleep. But then Sifa suddenly stepped out of her room in her pajamas. She looked over at the bandit next to her, and he was so blown away by her looks that he just stood there blushing, completely speechless. Out of nowhere, she yelled for them to stop and unleashed her powers right then and there. The bandits were completely frozen by the spell, and they could only watch as the girl walked right up to them. Suddenly, she swings her blade and smacks the bandits right in the face, sending them crashing to the ground. The other guys started hissing and decided to jump her since she was wide open without a weapon, hyping themselves up to charge in and grab her. Safi dead seriously orders them to bow, but the guys are totally frozen and can't move a single muscle. In a flash, she was right next to one of the bandits and slammed a heavy hit straight into his gut. Another guy tried to get revenge for his friend, but she stayed totally cool and smacked him right in the face without even looking back. She springs off the ground, pulls a 6 somersault, and takes out 2 guys at once. One guy screamed that she was picking them off one by one. Since the hallway was so cramped, they couldn't even use their numbers against her. And while he was still talking, Safi just like that, every single one of those bandits got totally wrecked. The guys were panting on the floor, realizing they were totally outmatched, when Safi suddenly remembered seeing their faces back in the dungeon. She tried to ask what their deal was and what they wanted, but they didn't say a word before turning tail and sprinting away as fast as they could. Safi's dad Billy pops out of a room asking what all the noise is about in the middle of the night, and she starts yelling for him. The guy snaps his eyes open and sees a bandit standing right in front of him. He shouts that this is their big break. They decide to grab her dad and use him as a hostage. Billy saw a bandit charging straight at him, so he flexed his massive arm and swung it out, catching the guy totally off guard as he slammed right into it. That hit was so powerful it sent him flying, and the rest of the bandits just stood there with their jaws on the floor. Billy starts rubbing his shoulder, and the bandits are totally clueless about what's going on. Safi let out a sigh and explained her dad was an army blacksmith, but he told her that whenever they ran low on soldiers, he had to head straight to the front lines to fight. Billy balled up his fists and glared at the group, shouting that he didn't care who they were because he was dragging them all to the guards, making the bandits freak out and bolt. They tried to run but got busted by the police, and when one guy hissed at them, the officer realized they were actually part of the Arsal gang. Billy felt awful that some people were still missing and in hiding, but the guard told him to stop apologizing because they were just so hyped to finally find them after years of searching, while Safi We still don't know why they tried to break in, but the investigation is still going. Sifa's dad sees she's totally wiped out from the dungeon and tells her to go get some sleep. She walks back into the room and spots something sparkling on the floor, so she heads over and grabs it. Volka handed that bracelet over to the bandits, and the girl couldn't get over how beautiful it was. Volka suddenly leaped out of his chair, totally losing it because his entire plan had just crashed and burned. The bandits bragged that a few of them actually got away, leaving Volka totally crushed and unable to believe what was happening. He decided to handle everything himself and demanded his bracelet back, but the bandit was shaking with fear, saying he probably dropped it in that house. The wolf just burst out laughing like it was the funniest thing ever. He marches right up to the bandit, grabs him by the collar, and tells him he isn't laughing, making the guy freak out and start apologizing to his boss. Wolf kept losing it, screaming about how his expensive plan was totally trashed, when suddenly the bracelet on his wrist started to glow. Volka saw it happen, but he was totally confused when his control bracelet suddenly started acting up for some reason. Right then, Sifa drops to her knees and slumps against the wall, having no clue what's happening to her as her body starts feeling really strange, while the wolf just stares. The target actually put on the submission bracelet, and after one last look, Cypher just totally blacked out. Senna Jans is heading out on a brand new quest. Her brother Gio is feeling pretty nervous and asks if they're actually going to be okay. After all, they just got totally... The guy knows she's still the new girl, but he asks to look after Sifa himself to keep her out of trouble, and the sister agrees before taking off. Pee-Pee hops onto Milk's back with a squeak, and while the MC is convinced Sifa is being hunted, he's probably just overthinking it. He's just praying she stays safe when the door suddenly flies open and wind blasts into the house, making her ask her brother if he's actually a Cypher. She looks totally stressed and says she's got bad news about Cypher, making the guy jump up in total shock. They bolted to Seth's house, only to find a massive crowd already gathered outside. Sifa's huddled under a blanket, totally out of breath and red-faced, when Gio sprints over looking super worried to ask what's going on while Annie and the workshop guys crowd around her. He asks if she's okay, thinking she's either hurt or just losing it, but he's dead wrong and realizes she looks like a total wreck. Sifa held up her hand and blamed the bracelet, making the guy totally freeze as a weird energy started pouring out of it. She says the second she put it on, her body started feeling super weird, and it stuck to her skin so hard she couldn't even pull it off. The kid wanted to know what went down, so Billy started from the very beginning and told him how bandits totally ambushed them in the middle of the night. Gio, Senna, and Annie are totally stunned. Cypher warns them that they might get jumped right there in the dungeon. Annie points out that they've been the ones hunting Cypher this. Senna is totally fuming that the bandits waited until they were fast asleep to jump them. She screams that they're nothing but pathetic cowards. Sifa tells her they already chased the thugs away. Billy scratches his beard and says they handed the bad guys over to the guards, thinking the drama was over. But then Sifak puts on a bracelet they'd already tossed, and the hero has no idea what she's thinking. She said he was way too handsome to turn down, even though everyone watching thought she was being a total idiot. He started chewing her out and told her to be way more careful. And even though Sifa apologized, her dad ranted that he was already sick of bandits and didn't need this. Our MC asks if the bracelet is cursed, but Billy shuts him down, saying an expert checked it this morning and confirmed it's actually a legit magic item. Senna had no clue what a magic item was, so they explained it's basically an object packed with mana to cast spells, and while his dad could tell it was super powerful, they still didn't know what it was actually for. He warned her that if that bracelet really belonged to that gang, they were in big trouble, and all the adventurers and her dad's workers totally agreed with her. Something was seriously wrong with Sifa, and if this kept up, she was in big trouble. She tried to apologize for the scare while her face turned bright red, but you could tell she was getting weaker by the second. Everyone's eyes were glued to her, looking totally freaked out, while the hero just whispered her name under his breath. Gio can see she's hurting bad, and even though he's clueless about how to take that bracelet off, he knows he's got to find a way to help her. He asks Billy if a small healing potion will help her, admitting it won't break the magic, but it's way better than doing nothing. Annie told the travelers she had a little something for them. Senna wasn't so sure if it would actually be enough, so the young guy bolted back home to grab his own gear. A bandit bursts into the hideout yelling that the target finally put on the bracelet, and while Volko just chills in his chair, the rest of the crew starts going wild. The boss double-checked to see if he was telling the truth. He swore it was for real because she even looked it over twice. It turns out she found the item and put it on. Volga just laughed, stood up from his chair and said the whole thing felt way too familiar. He warned her that once the bracelet is on, it's stuck forever, and wearing a matching one gives you total control over the victim, making the bandit super relieved her dad didn't find it first. He looks down at the bracelet and grins because everything went exactly as planned, and that massive price tag was worth every single cent. He's so close to the finish line, and once she finally gives in, he can just hand her over to the boss and walk away with a massive reward. He flipped up his hood and headed for the door, bragging that geniuses like him are born to win, and now it was finally time to go grab the girl who walked right into his trap. While that's going down, Gio is hauling a box stuffed with all kinds of herbs. He was gasping for air as he handed over all his healing herbs, and Billy and Gio thanked him while asking if they'd actually be enough to help. Annie admitted she already chugged the whole potion just to get her energy back, but since it was Marlin's special brew, she would have been cured instantly if it was just a normal cold. While the hero set the box on the ground, he whipped out a bottle of that insane magic potion and handed it straight to Sif. He told her she should totally give it a shot. The potion was glowing with rainbow colors, and since Annie knew it wasn't for healing, she asked what it actually was. He gives a secret answer that's way more powerful than any normal potion, but man, it sounds totally sus. He's worried she'll turn it down if she finds out how rare it is, but honestly, who would just chug a random potion anyway? She took one look at the potion and said if Gio says it's okay, she's totally drinking it. Everyone was totally blown away by what she said, and Billy asked if she was for real, praying it wasn't some weird love potion. Gio's just praying this helps Sepha feel better, but the second she drinks that potion, she starts glowing like crazy and leaves everyone totally stunned. The second Sifa chugged that potion, everything started glowing like crazy. She started glowing so bright that it lit up the whole area, and it was so blinding that people actually had to cover their eyes. Everyone just stood there completely stunned, staring at her with their jaws on the floor. Kaifa says she's feeling way better, and everyone's noticing she's finally back on her feet, but then she tells them she just heard something totally awesome. She noticed a crack in her bracelet and just ripped it off like it was nothing, leaving everyone watching in total shock. Billy thought the whole thing was awesome, but everyone else was totally confused about how it even happened, especially since the bracelet looks like it doesn't have a single scratch on it. The dad asked the council how she was doing, and she let out a huge sigh of relief saying she felt perfect, making him realize this elixir was way more powerful than he ever imagined. Annie cuts him off to ask what she just drank, and after a nervous pause, he admits it was an elixir, leaving the whole room in total shock. Nobody believed this was the real deal, and they seriously doubted it actually had that kind of power. Annie grabbed the kid's shoulders, totally losing it over how he could use that power, and yelled that CFO was cursed, while Senny wondered if the elixir was actually that big of... Annie explains it's a legendary elixir that can basically fix anything, from curing every disease and wound to correcting any weird glitches in your body. Billy realized the potion actually shuts down the bracelet's creepy power, leaving the guys totally clueless because this stuff is a straight-up miracle. Since they were totally freaking out, it's a good thing he kept quiet, and as Sifa offered the guy a drink, it looked like he could finally be useful to someone. Our guy just flashed a grin and agreed, telling her he never even thought about taking that bracelet off. And when she guessed it was super pricey, he just laughed and said it didn't cost much at all. The whole thing was basically total garbage, but since it was all free stuff from the garden, he realized he couldn't explain why lying was actually the smarter move right now. One guy speaks up and says he saw this exact elixir at an auction way back. It sold for a massive 5,000 gold coins. He couldn't figure out why the man would. Everyone thought he was straight up crazy for dropping that much cash on Sifa. Billy even asked if he was really that desperate to save her. Sifa promised to pay him back even if it took. Senna was dying to know where his brother scored that crazy potion. Everyone else was getting super curious too. The guy realized things were totally spiraling out of control. He told her it was a trade secret, so Annie just sighed and decided to drop it. The CFA status is finally looking better, so the whole mess is officially over, and they'll handle the rest later. Kaifa flashed a grin, and after the guys traded looks, they totally went along with her. She's finally doing okay, so she gives them a quick thank you before the guys get straight to work. Our MC finally let out a huge sigh of relief that it was all over, and suggested they go talk in his room, while the other guy started acting totally shy. Annie kicks back in her chair and calls out that this elixir is made from Garden of Geo ingredients, while our main guy stays on his knees and admits she's totally right. She mentions that Marlin already turned them into a potion, which is exactly what she expected since nothing can really shock her anymore. She started laying into Geo for the mess he made, totally embarrassing him in front of a huge crowd while telling him to be careful, and Senna thought the whole thing was hilarious. Our guy apologized for the total chaos, admitting he just freaked out and didn't think. But Annie just sighed and said she was glad it was finally over. She told Safi the elixir was totally free, but the girl looked like she was ready to argue about it. Geo cut her off and totally backed Annie up, telling her he'd go as far as he needed to because her safety was all that mattered. But Annie was super confused by his weird comment. Safi looked the guy right in the eye and told him she finally got the whole picture. He's the only reason she finally got that bracelet off. And since she can never truly pay him back, she grabs his hand, looks him right in the eyes, and tells him The hero's face turned bright red and he started panicking because she just promised to do literally anything he asked for. Annie suddenly jumped in and shut them down right in the middle of all that confusion. She warned Saif to watch his mouth, so the hero shouted back that he'd never ask her for anything sketchy. Annie was totally expecting him to ask her out or even propose, but the hero shot her down, so she suggested Safi just become his big sister instead. Geo tells Teffy she doesn't need to go that far, because honestly, just hearing him say thanks is more than enough for her. She flashed a smile and promised she'd totally find a way to pay him back one day. Back at Sif's place, Annie admits she feels like some creep is stalking her, so she's got to stay on high alert. Senny suggested they take a break, and that's when Annie remembered something big. The wolf lurked in the shadows of the alley, keeping its eyes glued to the target. He finally realized she was a total beauty, and once the hero took off, Volka got right back to his master plan. This dude really thinks he can just do whatever he wants with her. In just a flash, he was already standing right next to Sif. He asks if she's a Sif, she asks who he is, and the guys tell her that from now on, he's her new master. He grabs the girl and tells her she's coming with him. She didn't even flinch, and when Sifa asked why she should even go with him, Volko was left totally confused. He tried to order Sif to follow him again, but she straight up refused to budge. The guy was totally stunned and couldn't wrap his head around why she'd actually reject him. He orders her to spin 3 times and bark like a dog, but she doesn't move an inch, leaving him totally confused since that service bracelet was supposed to make her follow every single command. He checked out her hands and felt totally bummed when he saw she wasn't wearing the bracelet. The guy couldn't believe his eyes, realizing the servants totally played him since the bracelet was gone, so Billy turned right towards Saifa. He asked the girl if he could melt the bracelet down, and that's when Volka realized it was actually his. He recognized that service bracelet and realized she wasn't even wearing it. Then Billy spotted a sketchy guy and asked what his deal was. If he could just get his hands on that bracelet, he'd have one more shot to slide it onto her wrist, so he acted like a total stranger and told them it's way too gorgeous to melt down. They should just sell it to him instead. Billy looked at his daughter and told her he just couldn't do it because that magic item was way too dangerous. His daughter put it on and got totally stuck, and even though they finally pried it off, Volka was absolutely fuming. He was totally losing his mind because she put it on and then just took it off, which should be impossible. How did she even do that? Sifa was positive he was hiding a secret, and once she noticed his bracelet looked exactly like hers, Volka realized she was finally onto him. Volka took one last look at the service bracelet, realized he had to back off for now, and apologized before heading out. Billy and Sifo kept their eyes glued to the stranger as he walked away. The robbers snapped their heads toward the door the second they heard a weird noise. The wolf shows up at the door, and when they ask how things are going, he tells them everything is falling apart. The servants were totally shocked to see the bracelet on his wrist, so the guy pulled off his hood and started bragging about his perfect plan before he just lost it and started laughing. Check against rules. Teenager telling story? Yes. Simple language? Yes. One line out? Yes. No new lines. The guy looked at his hand and realized the bracelet was totally dead and useless. But then Volka suddenly dropped to the ground on all fours and bowed his head. This bracelet was worth a crazy amount of money. Cypher stood by the window, staring at the bottle of magic elixir with a huge grin on his face. Senna flopped down and told her brother that if he brewed a ton of elixirs, they'd be set for life and never have to work again. Our hero was totally stunned by his sister's words when she reminded him he'd promised to do whatever it takes, forcing him to admit he only said that to keep Sifa happy and he's actually hit his limit. Senny used to think he could just slack off for the rest of his life, and while he knew it was possible, he couldn't let Marlon do the same, so he slammed down One of their old teammates who left for the capital is already heading back, and as she rides in her carriage, she's just hyped to finally be home in Arsol. Laruka greets the boy and tells him straight up that she's there for the harvest. He says hi back and tells her he's got something new today, then he pulls out a chunk of black ore. Laruka's jaw dropped as she called it a mantida mashatura, and while the guy confirmed she was right, he had to ask her what that actually was. She explains this metal is super rare and the toughest stuff in the world, and when the hero asks if it's really that strong, Lacrua says even if a giant like Atlas stepped. Gio asks if they can turn it into a beastly weapon, while Senna's hunting for a new sword because her old one is totally blunt. She says this metal isn't just strong, it's actually the stuff of legends. This stuff is so insanely hard that it's a nightmare to work with. There are only a few. They decide to forge a sword out of mithril, and Lyric totally agrees it's the best choice since pure mithril can even hold insane magic powers. The kid had no clue how magic worked, so she explained that this item was basically a cheat code that could fire off spells with a simple wave, or even heal his wounds every time he took down an enemy. He recently scored some high-grade mithril, but it looked so sketchy that he stashed it in storage, and now he's firing up the system to grab it back. A weirdly shaped piece of mithril suddenly tumbles out of the stash, and Lyric's jaw completely drops. She stared at the metal, wondering if it was actually the real deal. The hero couldn't help but think the whole thing felt super sketchy. Usually mithril has this epic glow and looks. She explains that cheap mithril glows because the mana leaks out, so the hero realizes that if it doesn't glow, it's 100% pure, something that's literally impossible to find in the wild. Our hero is walking down the street when he realizes Laruka is a total genius, so he decides to have Billy forge a sword out of that pure mithril. Out of nowhere, he spots a girl in a hat hanging out by the forge, watching the blacksmith do his thing.
Right now these guys are grinding hard and dripping with sweat.
The kid walked up behind the stranger to say something, but she totally jumped and let out a massive scream. The guy started apologizing like crazy for scaring her, saying he just wanted to see if she needed a hand. She looked him right in the eye and told him she wasn't weird. Then she headed straight for Cypher. He tells her she just headed out on a mission and isn't home, and the girl says she totally gets it. She shouted a quick thanks and sorry before bolting away, leaving him thinking she was totally weird, but he just tried to shake it off. Billy spotted Gio, and since everyone was so busy, Gio walked over to see what was up, so Billy told him he needed a new sword forged for Senna. The guy promised to handle it easily since he's helped them out a ton, so the kid thanked him and handed over the goods. But even though the man knew it was mithril, he took a closer look and asked what specific type it really was. That mystery girl outside Sif's place is actually Sarasa, and as she walks down the street, she admits she's totally being super sus again. Every few years, mages get called to the Capital Magic Academy for a massive exam. She was shaking so much she almost totally failed. Now, she's just hyped to get out of there. She's sure Sypha and Annie are doing just fine on their own, but questing is a total nightmare when you don't have a solid mage on the team. She officially joined the guild, and now she's gonna have to give it everything she's got to keep up with her new team. She sat down on the bench, but since she was early, she figured she'd go check out Safa's family workshop.
You seriously can't ignore how jacked these masters are.
That month-long trip to the capital totally wiped her out, but now she's back at full power and ready to spill about the skinny kid she met who's actually super close with the masters. She's just chilling on a bench having some totally spicy thoughts, but then she suddenly smacks her own face to snap out of it, leaving a random guy walking by completely weirded. Sarasa scanned the area to see what was around her, and you just know her bad habit was about to act up. She tried to keep it cool by checking out those crazy muscles, but then the black-haired kid asks his buddy if he's really up for this, suggesting he could just find a way stronger partner. But his friend doesn't care, telling him that the dark-haired kid was totally confused, so he told his friend that the only reason he even became a traveler was to go on epic adventures together. The kid didn't believe a word he said. The blonde guy told him to quit making the boy say that stuff. Sarasa watched them and thought it was total paradise. She was literally drooling. Scanning the guild, she spotted tons of guy duos she could get close to, like two young dudes having a heated argument, and an older adventurer hanging out with a rook. She dropped to her knees feeling like a total loser, finally admitting she's obsessed with muscles and loves checking guys out, and her face turned bright red from the confession.